Just outside the imperial capital of Heft, there was a gentle thumping sound, almost lost on the wind. Before anyone could make anything of it, Nuke and company were suddenly assailed by a man clad head to toe in black wraps. "Tell me who you killed," the figure demanded. "Hey, who the... Man, get out of here," Nuke said, jumping back as the figure tried to kick him. "Just as I thought. You're a noble. Who did you take that garb from? Who must I avenge?" "Black market. I don't know where it came from." "You're a ninja too?" "Too?" "Yeah, I'm a ninja." The man spat at Nuke's feet. "Monster! Enough words!" With this, the ninja of the sands came at Nuke with everything, although he carried no weapon. Nuke stumbled backwards to avoid the blows, and then his warriors stepped up to swing at the attacker. The ninja juked around in the darkness, somehow avoiding blows from sword and spear that were certain to hit a split second before. "I'll kill you," he cursed as he danced backwards. Distracted by the barrage of attacks, Nuke was able to slip into the melee himself and land a clean slice right down the ninja's side. The ninja stumbled, fell, and was still. "Guys," Nuke began, "it's literally a real ninja. The most dangerous of the rebels. We must find out why he was here," Wadston said. "Should have said that before I slashed him up, my man." "Perhaps he carries something of import," Izayah suggested. The ninja had a load of stolen cash, but no intel on his operations. "There's only one thing for it then," Nuke concluded. "We're keeping him." "My prince," Wadston said, not daring to ask for a full logical breakdown. "We'll make him talk at home, and then we'll have a ninja. You know, like a guard ninja." "Prince Tashino, do you know what ninjas do to people like you?" Izumi asked. "I'll put him on a lead or something, I'm not stupid," Nuke reassured them. Nobody was especially assured, but with a snap of his fingers, Nuke had Els haul the ninja on towards Heft. Back home, the crew made friends with the neighbours with some 4 AM hammering of the scrap they'd dragged from the Iron Valleys, eventually creating a makeshift iron cage to keep their new pet in. The ninja was unconscious from blood loss, so Nuke tasked Wadston with keeping him alive. When it was finally time for bed, Nuke went to close the front door and saw that there was a letter nailed to it. It was on United City's Imperial House stationery. This couldn't be good. "You know how it is," Nuke read to the group. "There be things you gotta carry on for your health, and then there's this whole empire thing. Man, in the good old days we always stuck to one or the other." "Man, what is this even talking about?" "So it's from my dad, guys, can assure you of that." "Does it ever actually say anything?" "No. No. Oh, fuck, it goes down the back. That's why I need you to step up and serve the Empire like the warrior princes of old Nippon and shit." "My prince, is the Emperor trusting you with commanding troops from the Empire?" Wadston asked, eyes agleam. "Are we to slay the skeleton wizard?" Izayah asked also. "Are we going to get paid?" Izumi added. "Guys, what are you talking about? It's my fucking dad. He wants me to find him a new dealer, because the guys in the tower sold out. And I know it's true, because they sold out to the fucking TCM Plus guild." I think what he really means is we must survey the Empire's territories and compile a report on the trade of illegal narcotics," Wadston said. "Yes, as my man here says, we fellows need to get the Emperor fucking high as a kite, and then he'll give me some of that vault inheritance. Rest of the damn Empire too, I bet. This is perfect. Before we're done here, the Red Rebellion will be over with the coming of I, the Green Emperor." Gustafsson quickly knelt down before the prince and implored the others to do the same. "He stakes claim to kingly station," the hiver said. "He wants to go get fucking baked with his dad, then steal the inheritance," Izumi corrected him, and Nuke waved Gustafsson up magnanimously. "Come on guys, not gonna be a big deal. It'll be easy. And for us, all the stuff we want along the way, you know." "But it won't be easy!" Nuke suddenly jumped up onto the table and raised his sword. "This empire has fallen into chaos, with rebels, monsters, ninjas, and other cool shit all over the land. Now I, a humble prince, must answer the command of my father and bring us all together in a single cause. Getting my dad so fucking high that he'll finally start being chill. Then we steal his stuff. And the world shall be saved, I expect. Samurai of the Green Empire, we have work to do. With the spectre of a few more letters being added to the complete company acronym, the guild now prepared to go inspect the provinces of the United Cities Empire. And by prepare, I mean they sharpened weapons and sparred on the roof, because, as you must appreciate by now, an empire with a core this wild must have some really funky outer provinces. Downstairs, Nuke sidled up to the caged ninja, now fully conscious and meditating in silence. So, ninja man, got any leads on the green? You'll have better luck with my corpse, so spare your breath, noble. I'm not gonna arrest you or whatever, I just need some connections in the underworld, for business. The people of your empire are not fools, I'll say nothing. But come on, I'm a ninja too, man. Stop saying that, you know nothing of what it means to be a ninja. Okay, man, but you know nothing of how much I know of what it means to be a ninja. Look, check this out. Nuke grabbed some recovered pages from an ancient book. There was a faded illustration of a short man in an orange jumpsuit eating a bowl of noodles. You ever heard of the legendary ninja Naruto? You have ninja texts here. Got loads of stuff. Look man, we got stuff about where ninjutsu was invented. You know about Earth? No. Man, this Earth stuff is wild if it's true. We got a girl here who knows all that stuff. Yeah, check it out. Nuke spent the evening discussing ninja lore with his captive. The captive could not read and had no knowledge of the Order's fantastical past. Gradually, he came to believe that perhaps this weird nobleman really was passionate about the ninja arts. I am nothing like this grey fox, I assure you, the ninja said. I suppose the ninjutsu tradition has fallen from its golden age. No one chooses to be a ninja now, except you, perhaps. Why not? Being a ninja's cool. No! You say that because you think Naruto lives on today. Sure, Naruto is admirable, an extremely capable ninja without doubt, but here, in your empire, we're doing this because we have no choice. What else can a man do when his empire abandons him? The samurai come and take everything you have without warning, and that is that. Most perish, and the best survive only by embracing the arts of the ninja, and believing that one day our fight will lead to a better world. You may know of ninjutsu's past, noble, but you know nothing of its struggle today. You stand in our way. You know what, man? I do kinda know about that stuff. I've seen it just recently, and it does suck. That's why I'm gonna sort it out one day. How? Did you hear? Well, it starts with getting my dad absolutely burned out. That's the Emperor. Then I'm gonna get unexiled and stuff, get all the money back, and then I'll sort it out. Dad'll probably get trapped in the bogs or whatever, and I'll run the Empire. You want in on this? How can I possibly believe you? Dunno. If I'm lying, then stuff ends up the same. If I'm not, it ends up getting better. Not really a losing gamble, is it? This was the most intelligent thing Nuke had ever said, and it came at just the right moment. The ninja, who finally revealed his name to be Sandor, was impressed enough to agree to be Nuke's personal bodyguard. His first job the next day was to lead the party back across the stretch of desert where Nuke had picked him up, returning to Stobe in the west, from where they could leave the desert and enter the so-called provinces of the Empire. The first one, Bast, was not going to provide them any leads at all. The arid hills were dotted with ruins, not just from the First Empire, nor the Second, but mostly the Third, or the current one, to be clear. To be even clearer, Bast had been completely destroyed. It's a foul story, Izayah told the group. It was just before my time on the roads. The mad Okronites came and burned every town to the ground. They killed the adults, kidnapped the rest. That's the holy nation for you. This holy nation was the other great power of the day, the insane cousin of the United Cities Empire that had broken away some 1,000 years ago. Only thing you need to know about them for now is that they really like Okran, one of the two gods that ruled the planet, and they really hated just about everything else you could possibly think of. The United Cities allowed unholy creatures like skeletons and Shek to be citizens, and so the war between the two powers was unending. Let us pass over that topic for now though, as our heroes were forced to just walk through the empty lands of Bast in search of the supposed Empire territories that lay beyond it. By the end of the day, they were walking the cool coastal sands of the Dark Finger Peninsula. The world had seemed completely deserted since Bast, but finally they came upon a man sitting by a campfire with a herd of goats. "Excuse me, citizen," Nuke said, jogging over to him. "You don't happen to know where I could purchase industrial quantities of quality drugs, do you? Asking for a friend." The man leaned over and whispered something to one of the goats. The goat shook its head. "Not from round here, are you?" the man said. No one's from around here by the looks of it." "Aye, that's 'cause of the flesh eaters." "Flesh eaters? Did he say flesh eaters?" Izumi asked.
"Don't worry, Miss Izumi, he probably just means the cannibals,"
Izayah reassured her.
"The what?"
"Aye, cannibals they are," the man continued. "They eat human flesh. They love it. Roaring trade."
Fug. Well, at least it's not giant robot bloody spider crabs this time,
Izumi said.
"Oh no, we got those too,"
the man said. He pointed up a nearby bluff, and indeed there was a giant robot bloody spider crab mauling a crowd of people. "And it's all mine to rule. Thanks, Goatman," Nuke said, leading the party to investigate. They came upon a pile of skinny, rather dead folk with no sign of the spider crab anymore. "Shit," Nuke muttered as he rummaged through the pile. "They got nothing. Wadston, my man, you found anything?"
"They are all quite without credit,"
Wadston reported. "Then we're wasting our time here. I mean, if they're eating people, surely they don't eat the money and stuff. They must keep it somewhere."
"We'll have to explore further then,"
Izayah announced, and so they did. Darkness was falling. Ahead of them, they saw fires on a nearby hillside. Moving closer, they saw large numbers of people camped out around a few buildings. A flick of the wind gave you all the smell you needed to know this was a den of flesh eaters.
"Prince Tashino, why don't you let an inedible fellow go handle this for you?"
Red Rick offered. "That's plan B. Sandor's gonna show me some ninja stuff."
"Simple rule, really," Sandor said. "If you kill them, you get stuff now, might die yourself. If you let them live, you can rob them now, and then again, and then again. That's how the nobles get their stuff from the people, so about time I showed our royal master here how it's done."
Nuke and Sandor crept into the village, and with the experienced ninja's instructions, they made it inside one of the buildings completely undetected. There they looted a pair of beautiful steel swords.
"No more," Sandor whispered. "Leave enough for them to carry on. Regrow, if you like. And we must move quickly. Come."
"Are we not to occupy this settlement? I desire proper accommodation,"
Gustafsson complained upon their return. "Not worth it. Gotta let them grow," Nuke said, looking to Sandor for a nod of approval. "Besides, they don't have what we need in there. Or if they do, it's real bad green if it's got them eating each other. Munchies, man." The crew left the Cannibal Hill, but soon saw more lights ahead. There was a campfire beside a grove of trees, surrounded by bedrolls and freestanding torches. Someone had camped there very recently, but they were gone now. Too good to be true? Well, maybe. Too good to not be caused by rampaging giant robot spider crabs? That's more like it. "Remember, go straight for the jewels!" Nuke shouted as one of them stomped from the nearby darkness. This advice proved invaluable, and with the leadership of the crab slayer of flesh and metal alike, they put the robots to sleep, with everyone still on their feet for a change. The victory won them a premium campsite, situated just a stone's throw from the calm beaches of the northern coast. It was a sight so relaxing, so peaceful, that our exhausted adventurers could have slept all night and all day. Alas, the camp was fully booked, as it turned out. After a couple of hours, there was a sudden chorus of shrieks and jeers. The gang sprang from their bedrolls to see a crowd, nay, a horde, of half-squatting, paint-faced cannibals swarming forwards in a hungry rage. "Fug, fug, fug! Hold on to your fugging flesh!" Nuke called as he rallied the group together. The wave of cannibals crashed on them before anything could be done. They numbered perhaps 40, and clambered over each other to swing iron rods at their prey. Each cannibal only stood as high as the average person's waist, and it was hard to say if this was from their young age, their bow-legged gait, or just the lack of nutrition in a diet of human flesh. Perhaps it was all three. There was little time for a detailed analysis, as you might imagine.
Izayah, go full Shek on them,
Nuke called out. Izayah, with 5 cannibals swarming over him, roared and threw them back, before slashing out with a katana, taking hands and fingers away from all those around him.
"I got your back, Prince,"
Rick said.
I'm fine, save the girl.
"With pleasure."
Wait, actually, damn it. Stop trying to eat me, you little fugs!
Hey, biologicals, try being powered by sunlight for a change. It's free and easy, just like me. Come take a bite.
Rick taunted. With a swing of his stick, the cannibal trying to climb onto Izumi's back was tumbling through the air.
Fuck, shit!
Izumi was saying, pretty much non-stop, beating cannibals back with a stick of her own. Izayah, Bobby and Claw had far outmatched these emancipated scragglers, and together helped clear the field of the horde.
Damn it. Anyone get eaten?
Nuke said.
"Charlie's out,"
Izayah reported.
Prince Gustafsson appears to be taking a nap,
Wadston said. Right, pretty much standard for both of them. All's fine then.
Prince Tashino,
Izumi began.
I know, we're done here.
I mean, how could I have known that would happen?
The warnings, the evidence, the impossibility of there being any other course of events, an educated woman telling you these things over and over.
Oh yeah, you were saying that, weren't you? Thing is, that's not history, is it? It's the future, so how could I trust you?
What? You don't trust me?
I mean, just about this one thing, maybe. Not that I didn't trust you.
You just said...
"Sorry to interrupt,"
Rick said, interrupting without being sorry.
"but I think we should mosey pronto and all that."
Yeah, sorry, history girl. Future girl. You're future girl now, alright? Everyone, we gotta mosey pronto or something. I don't know, actually forget that. Let's just get out of here. They started walking south, back towards the places where it was big, mouthy insects that killed you, rather than little halfling swarm folk. On their way, their path was cut off by a few more wandering cannibals, but almost at once the way was cleared by a herd of wild goats. The cannibals, perhaps seeking to experiment with other meats, tried to fight these goats and got their naked, painted bodies butted into oblivion as a result. The crew marvelled from nearby, and when the dust had settled, walked on, petting the otherwise very friendly goats as they passed. I think we've got all the data we need on this province, Nuke said. The one who rules the goats rules Darkfinger. Simple as that. Future girl, note that down. This intel will lock this place down one day, I bet.
I knew it,
Gustafsson said, suddenly waking on his perch on Elz's shoulder.
That man, the goat whisperer, we must associate with him.
Els had to hold on to the hiver as he started kicking and screaming.
We must associate with the Goat King! Bad Green, we're gonna associate the shit out of that Goat King real soon,
Nuke said, calming him down. The crew left the Goat Kingdom without further harm, and they didn't leave empty-handed. They stumbled upon another Second Empire library to loot. Perhaps Izumi was happy with that, after all the trouble. However, the royal survey had indeed revealed nothing to satisfy the request of the Emperor or his son. The goat overlords dealt only in literal grass, so they were not going to be very fruitful vassals. But hope for the Empire was not lost, for the adventurous prince would look far and wide for a chance to get his deadbeat dad on the hook. If that meant braving huge space lasers that blasted down without warning, then so be it. Funnily enough, that was exactly what it meant. As the Toshino Credit Management, and a whole lot else guild, marched out of the rural provinces and into the lifeless embrace of the Great Desert, they stumbled upon something rather curious. "Those rocks are a bit messy," Nuke said.
"Those aren't rocks, it's a mixture of saliva and dung,"
Izayah told him.
"Unless I am very much mistaken, that is a hive."
Everyone looked to Gustafsson. "I suppose you'd call it a hive," he said, apparently making a concession of some kind. "Well, let's hive a look, shall we?" Nuke decided. Bobby and Claw dragged Els through his fit of uncontrollable laughter. They entered a ring of large teardrop hives, which spilled forth dozens of dull-eyed hivers. "Prince Teshino, you're not going to rob them, are you?" Izumi asked. "Well, I was thinking of it, but there's so many of them, and they're living in their own shit. Yeah, I don't know about this place."
Perhaps we should just purchase a souvenir,
Wadston suggested. They hit the shopping hive, and found it to be surprisingly full of tech, new and ancient. Hivers had a knack for that kind of thing, carrying on traditions they learnt from the humans thousands of years ago. Not that Nuke was especially interested in that, because hives sold hashish over the counter without second thought. That was the prince settled for a bit, and the hive cleared of any unannounced product recall warrants. Not everyone was having such a nice visit though. Gustafsson had been surrounded by the local drones, who sniffed at him for a while before all at once shouting, "Hiveless one!" and becoming very agitated. "Foolish drones, you are not permitted to touch me!" Gustafsson complained, but no one heard anything of it. He was pushed outside, and even there was set upon from all directions by glares that were probably rather hostile. Humans couldn't tell hiver expressions apart, so it was hard for the gang to really know what this was all about. "Did you rob them, you cheeky bugger?" Nuke asked. "No. Drones do not understand what it means to be a true prince. They think I am a traitor." "Traitor? You're just less of a loser, come on." "You are correct, Prince Teshino. Drones are unable to think clearly. They associate with nothing, hence nothing is what they know best." "Boom. You got them, Bad Green. Don't worry, we gotta go anyway. Is everyone out of the shop yet?" Looking around, they were missing just Red Rick. Rick had been completely swarmed by the hivers, who fussed over his parts obsessively, cleaning away dirt and buffing out scratches.
"You might think this is like getting a massage or something,"
Rick said when Nuke found him.
"but in reality, it doesn't feel like anything. Unless I want it to feel like something. And man, let me tell you, I got this shit feeling real good."
"I can't believe I just looked you in the eyes while you said that," Nuke muttered. At least our prince had finally discovered a potential source of hashish for the Emperor, although it was not nearly enough for what Nuke had in mind. Indeed, he'd bought out their whole supply, and barely had any left by the time they got settled in back home in Heft. It was decided, by a very democratic process of demanding it of Nuke while he was on the verge of consciousness and forcing him to nod, that they would all take a few days off in the city before the next inspection tour. This gave time for the crew to mend their wounds, to practice the secret robot spider crab castration technique, and relax in the sunshine with a good book, of which Izumi had created quite the collection. One afternoon she was lazing on the roof reading some old magazine, watching Rick do push-ups out of the corner of her eye. Why was a skeleton doing push-ups? Everyone but Izumi asked the same question. Nuke stomped up the stairs and sat beside her. "You know Gustafsson's got a friend over." "What, you?" "Nah, another bug man, Ignacio." "Ignacio? Like, you heard of Harry Potter?" "No." "I thought you'd read the classics." "Well, it was Wadston who read it, if you want to get technical, but it counts as me reading it. Same as the money he makes counts as me making it." "Impeccable thinking. Well, whatever. How about this one? You ever heard of chocolate?" "Chocolate? Oh, yeah, I think I read that one. Very thoughtful. I like the part where the guy joined tendrils with the weird alien thing." "Chocolate, my prince, is a food." Yes, an interesting reading of the text." "Chocolate is an ancient drug, my prince." Old school? What colour is it?
Brown.
Brown Town. Pass.
Hang on. According to this, people used to be obsessed with it back in the First Empire. It was kinda addictive. And I kinda have the recipe for it here. If you want to get addicted to something, you just had to ask. But this, Prince, is legal. We could make this chocolate and use it on the Emperor. That way, we aren't sticking our necks out for the samurai with your little plan. And I want to try it.
Well, future girl, I admire interest in the world of narcotics. Kinda pretentious to go right for some out-of-style hit, but you're new to the scene, so I forgive you.
Just think about it, Prince.
Sure. Could edge the hivers out of the market if it works. Yeah, I mean, we'll try it. We'll try it sometime. By the way, why the fuck is Rick doing push-ups?
10,473. 10,000... Oh, damn it, I lost count. I'll just have to start again, from the number I always start at. -1 million, baby.
He literally never gets tired.
Izumi told Nuke with wide eyes. Nuke decided to leave. Finally, the time came for the guild to assemble for an expedition to the Empire's southern reaches. Ignacio had become Gustafsson's royal bodyguard and joined their ranks with a crossbow strapped across his scrawny back. Now there are nobles to the south somewhere. They came to the palace a few times. That means there's civilization, and that means there is demand for hashish, and that means over that horizon a whole world of drugs is just waiting to be explored. Let's go. With this inspirational speech, a long haul began, walking down the east coast, through the white-sanded Heng Highlands, and out towards the beautiful salt gullies of Gut, the blue-sanded jewel that they had previously seen in the distance from the peak at Howler's Maze. The beauty of the place was matched only by its desolation and deadliness. The company looked out from the banks beside a walled farm and saw packs of monsters stomping about below. "Now I'm certain that's not a crab," Nuke said. "It's more like a... thing."
Quite right, Prince Tashino, Izayah said. That is a beak thing.
A weak thing?
Wadston asked.
Beak thing. It's like a huge spike on the end of a long lever. Despite their size, they run twice as fast as humans. Good thing too, for humans are their favorite treat. I suppose they'll dabble in Shek and hivers when times are tough. Must have great fun picking off the runaways from that slave camp up there. Ah, to run free with the beak things. Not such a bad way to go. Anyway, I don't think they'll stomach steel too well, so Rickard should be fine. Hey, Rickard?
Everyone had decided to run swiftly away from these beak things. This proved to be a fine decision, and the entire crew continued to not be eaten alive forthwith. With some idea now of why the flats were called Gut, they bypassed them and continued on south through the desert. The weather was worsening, and a fine sandstorm gathering ahead. There was something else out there too.
"That's the eye ahead,"
Izumi said. Would that happen to be an ancient hashish production facility? Nuke asked.
"Almost certainly, my prince."
"It could provide shelter from this storm. Let's hurry,"
Wadston suggested. They did so, arriving in the shadow of a gargantuan metal ring adorned with all manner of legs, bulges and protrusions. "So, future girl, gonna tell us what this is?"
"Well, I don't know that much. It's an ancient weapon. Dead now, obviously. It's been here for ages, I guess."
2,000 years dead, and good riddance to the thing. Gotta get the other one someday too,
Rick said.
"Wait, Rick, you remember when this was still active? What did it do?"
Forget I said anything. All skeletons have forgotten that time, don't you know that?
"You haven't forgotten, have you?"
I've forgotten everything, alright? Who even are you? Where's my money bucket? It's giving me empty vibes wherever it is.
As the crew rested and Rick continued to evade Izumi's questions, Nuke muttered to Wadston.
"Damn it, my man. Now she's got another obsession with the skelly boy."
"Indeed, his head is full of old secrets, I imagine. The advantage of age is his."
"We need to take a look at his memory chip. Charlie!"
Nuke waved Els over. "You want to steal Rick's brain for me?"
"What if he gives me the stick?"
Els replied. "I'm more worried about him giving someone else the stick," Nuke said. They decided not to steal Rick's brain in the end, but Nuke tried as best he could to find the screws on the back of the skeleton's head, just in case. In the evening, the sandstorm cleared and they carried on eastwards, seeing First Empire ruins dotted around the desert. One of them had a large, dish-shaped thing on top, pointing up at the sky. When they got close, Rick started complaining that it was giving him a headache. It was perfectly reasonable to presume this was the beginning of some new grift, so he was ignored. Then, a searing tower of yellow light pierced the heavens, shooting down like the wrath of a scorned god. It tore up a nearby hillside as it strafed across it, melting sand and turning mud to char.
Jeez, Okran! I'll pray harder or something, come on, man! Nuke said.
That's the other one,
Rick said. Another eye.
Yep, there were always two.
And the other one shot giant fire beams too.
Yep, it sucked. It's called a laser. Not that I know anything about it.
Rick, will you tell us the probability that we will get hit by one of these lasers? Wadston asked.
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, it don't fire during the night since it needs sunlight to work. People used to sneak by it in the dark. Haven't tried it myself. I was on the other side of the fence, you know. Wait, probably better that you don't know, you know?
Rick's price to explain his ramblings was far too high, but he seemed to be right about the night tip. It was already late, and this eye in the sky fell quiet. And now that it was safe to walk the roads in the area, the insects came out of the woodwork.
Is that? Shit, more ninjas! Nuke called as a gang of black-coated figures appeared from the darkness. They're not ninjas, they're pirates, Izumi said. Oh, you know that for sure, do you? Yes, trust me. They'll still kill us, though. Disgusting fat thing. Time to do whatever you want to these people in the dark, alright?
Els grinned and dashed out with his huge cleaver raised overhead.
Stay behind me, master, Sandor said to Nuke. Shit. Pirates versus ninjas, is it? Let's make some history, Nuke commented.
It turns out that ninjas are better than pirates. Although that said, Nuke's crew were the ones going around stealing things, and the attackers were black-clad stalkers of the night, so perhaps this wasn't the best sample. The pirates tried to cut the straps of Gary's pack to get a quick score, but the brave Garu thrashed about and beat the attackers away. Still, the sword slashes that landed took their toll, and by the time the melee was over with, poor Gary couldn't stand. Wadston splintered his leg, and they were just about ready to limp somewhere more comfortable for the night when another band of pirates appeared. Pirate pirates, there to steal the score from the first bunch.
Shit, I can't run on this leg,
Izumi said, clutching a freshly bandaged cut she'd picked up. I got you, Nuke said, suddenly scooping her up over his shoulder. He held onto her with one arm and with the other brandished his katana to battle back against the fresh pirates.
Nuke, you piece of shit! I'm not being your shield, you fucking shitlord!
Izumi screamed.
Okran's ghost, I'm stopping you getting pirated, milady. Keep still.
Also, I'm showing off, so try to look cool.
I'd rather get pirated than have your bloody arm around me.
You sundari.
What?
Haven't read the classics, have you?
What the fuck are you... Nuke!
Nuke was handily cutting down opponent after opponent, and as showing off goes, it was actually surprisingly good stuff. The others were faring okay also, and the pirates soon had enough. The hivers were both alive but unwilling to move, and so they were loaded up on the Shek for transit to a nearby United Cities market town, Eye Socket. There, the crew grabbed a few hours' rest to conclude the night.
Eye Socket? Exactly the sort of place you never want to see,
Izumi mumbled as she fell asleep. Luckily for her, she was somewhere entirely different when she woke up.
Beautiful, in its own way,
Rick was saying.
What? Really?
Izumi spluttered, jumping out of bed, only to see Rick was looking out over a large valley, in which a giant laser was merrily dancing about.
Ah, the madame awakes. Got you some better accommodation since you were complaining and all,
Rick said.
Well, thank you, Rick. And morning, Prince Tachino.
Nuke was standing right beside her bed, holding out a slab of charred skimmer meat.
Thanks, Prince. Wait, bloody... We're in Brink,
Izumi exclaimed. rushing about to look in all directions from the rooftop she found herself on. "Yep," Nuke said. "Thought maybe the guys here on the edge of the Empire would have the stuff, but really it's just samurai and misery, you know."
Of course I know. I spent half my life trying to get out of this place.
"You've been here before?"
This is where I'm from, idiot.
"Idiot? How was I supposed to know that?"
You were supposed to ask. You know, at some point during all that blathering about Naruto.
"That was a private conversation between me and Sandor, actually. Whatever. You're from Brink, then?"
Yes.
"And is there any green here?"
No.
Huh. Probably could have saved some time if I asked you that before we left.
Yeah, well done. I'm going back to bed.
Madame, at least you are now among the first to know that the laser beams out there are from the sister weapon to the eye. Dunno how many biologicals know that little secret, but it ain't many.
You're right, Rick. Thanks. You know, that does make me feel better. Thanks, Rick. Oh, but I'm guessing there are more things you want to tell me, right?
Sorry, sister. First one's free, but I can't go giving out secrets to anyone. Or anyone at all. It's supposed to be a secret. Damn it, you know what? Y'all owe me 10 stacks for this, and no one can know.
Agreeing to secrecy calmed the strangely distraught skeleton down. Following this, the crew took a day of leave exploring the tiny, ugly, impoverished frontier town of Brink. Took far less than a day to realize that Azumi had been right to migrate from that dump. In fact, they were so dissatisfied with the accommodation that they checked out around midnight to leave, which had the added bonus of avoiding the daytime laser shows, of course. Where were they going? Well, that was a matter of contention. Since Brink was the literal brink of the United Cities Empire, they were supposed to just go home. But pushing things beyond the brink was Nuke's speciality.
"My prince, I'm sure there is little out there of any use to us,"
Watchton argued.
I'm tempted to agree, Prince Tashino,
Izayah added.
In the Shek kingdom we call the places down there the old lands. Long since devoid of civilization, I'm afraid. Industrial supplies of quality drugs are hard to come by.
There can't be nothing out there. Look at that mountain and all this blurry mess on the map. Kinda like something is hiding out there, right? Nuke said.
Well, when you put it that way, it's another matter entirely,
Izayah said, leaving the huddle around the map and hoisting his bag onto his shoulder.
Prince, I'm pretty sure there really is nothing out there. It's bandits and monsters, and all they try to do is come back up here. Not much point going the other way, Izumi said.
Can I suggest something?
Rick said.
You know, heading out to that mountain ain't such a bad idea.
"Mr. Rick, can you elaborate?"
Watchton asked.
Nope. Just saying. I'm all for it. There's something special there. Your bug man might like the place. A real old sovereign. Kinda like there's an atmosphere out there, you know.
I don't know, and it sounds like you've gone off the rails, coin slot. But in many ways, that means we absolutely have to go, Nuke said. Soon, resistance seemed futile, and the party moved out into the desert night, heading south into the lands that had once been part of the Second Empire, but were far from being part of the Third. Rick seemed impatient to get there, but wasn't letting anything slip about it. Was what Nuke was looking for out there? Well, yes and no. The contacts he needed for his plans in the capital certainly weren't, but he did find something that brought him fulfillment beyond his wildest dreams. And this is nothing to do with his Sundara historian, I assure you of that.
I wonder if the middle of the room is really the best place for it,
Izumi said. Are you going to move your desk? Nuke replied from inside the hall.
No, I'm not. I mean, there's a really good solution to this. Not digging a well inside our house.
It's my house, I paid for it. I'll dig whatever I want in here.
And you want like 10 drops a day of dirty water, instead of, say, a usable interior to the building?
At this, Nuke dropped his shovel and looked up at Izumi with a scowl. Look, future girl, this is a money-making venture. If everyone would rather take days off than go get work done, then I'm going to have to keep this company afloat.
By putting a hole in it and letting water in.
Exactly. This is the fucking desert. Water's worth, like, money.
But there's a well right outside? That's a public well. This will be premium TCM Plus Elite Adventuring water. It's gonna be dirty water, especially if you're gonna stand in it. Heck, get off me! Get down here and help. In exchange for what? Exchange? I'll give you 5% of the takings? 95%. 6%. 95%, and I'll tell you how to make a water pump.
Ah, a pump. What's cheaper, pump or Wadston throwing buckets up? Izumi thumped down into Nuke's hole. But don't get too excited.
Pumping or throwing up? The classic question.
Well, I mean, why does it have to be one or the other? Nuke said. He suddenly realized he was almost face to face with Izumi in his little pit. She realized it at about the same time. For a moment they were there, staring into each other's eyes, Nuke's pump and throw up remark hanging in the air. Was it the reflection of the orange sands around the pit edge, or was Izumi going red in the face?
My prince, is there a reason you've dug a hole in our floor?
Came Wadston's voice from above. It's my floor, Nuke snapped, suddenly resuming his digging.
Mr. Wadston, would you like to help us dig a well? Izumi asked.
If that's my prince's command.
Wadston, take my place, Nuke commanded. It was arranged, and Wadston complied without hesitation. Now he was stuck in close confines with Izumi. Within the hour, they found water trickling out of the ground around their feet.
That's wet gold, Nuke said. Time to get pumping, future girl, he added.
But don't get too excited. Izumi assembled parts from the guild's collection of recalled miscellany, and soon they had water dripping from a tap in the middle of the room. Now all they needed to do was fill a couple of buckets, and the new premium hydration solution would make a big splash in the markets of the imperial capital. Izumi went to go dry off in the guild's shed down the high street, which was also where she liked to go read her books on these warm days off. Nuke went upstairs to smash a training dummy with his sword. He was jumping with energy and couldn't wait for the first load to dribble into his lap. But don't get too excited. Rick was there also, practicing his stick-beating technique. I mean, I can only curtail your excitement so many times, so please remain calm. Rick, you know Izumi? Nuke asked him.
Know her? I know every single thing there is to know. Sometimes I'm glad I can delete my memories.
Ah, right. So, I was gonna ask, do you know how mad she actually is at me? Is it like, not at all?
She's mad. She's mad, sad, and glad.
Sundari.
Damn biologicals and their old-time talk. You know, talking like that was illegal in the First Empire. Only reason those damn books survived the fall was because they were all hidden in secret places.
What are you talking about?
Oh, nothing you need to worry about. Just don't use any of those old Japan words on me, right? You're saying it wrong anyway.
Fine. So she's not gonna kill me.
I doubt it.
And maybe she actually likes me?
Listen, Prince, I ain't your agony aunt. I'm your uncaring uncle. I'm here to see shit and stick it to the biological... your enemies, that is. You want to get your hormones up over the greasy madame, you'll have to be my guest.
I don't want to do that, I'm just asking. Also, when you say greasy...
I ain't saying nothing else to you, horn dog. Why don't you go check on your watering hole or something?
Nuke did so, and found he'd collected almost an entire bucket of sweet, non-sweet water. He took it down to the Lowtown bar and clacked it onto the counter. You want to buy some of the good stuff? Nuke asked.
It comes in buckets now,
the barman replied, but don't get too excited.
It's water.
Doesn't look like water.
That's because it's TCM Plus Elite Premium Overlord EX 2.5 S-Class Hydration Medium.
So it's not even water?
It's water-esque.
Great. I'll give you 50 for it.
50 stacks?
50 cats.
What? That's not even enough for a fucking sandwich.
I'll trade it for a sandwich if you want, but you've got to let me take 3 bites and have a lick of the rest.
Man, this stuff... Yeah, fine, go on then.
Nuke entered the guild's shed down the street, finding Izumi bent over the writing desk in a very unexciting fashion, scrawling on some parchment. He explained his poor deal, but Izumi didn't seem very sympathetic.
Well, I mean, it's groundwater, still got the sand and stuff in it. I'd rather just keep licking a sandwich, she said.
Nothing to see here, folks. I need a way to get it cleaner, like before it goes through all the shit in the ground.
And you want me to help you with that?
If you're interested.
I'm not at all interested.
Yeah? What's that you're writing?
Nothing.
I can read, you know.
There's little proof of that.
You're writing about my well, I can see it. What else have you been writing?
No, wait, Nuke, seriously, don't look at all that!
Izumi said, suddenly gathering up a pile of papers and locking them in a drawer under the desk.
I'll help you, okay? Let's have a think. You want it not full of ground shit, right?
Yeah. So, we could collect up a load of spit.
What about Okran's spit?
Isn't that a position?
I mean fucking rain!
Izumi said. Now she was definitely red in the face. Rain? Rain? That's water, Nuke reasoned.
Yes, well done. Why don't we just make a rain collector on the roof?
That's genius! How do we do that?
Can't you imagine it?
Imagine what?
Actually, don't imagine anything. I'll help you. Let's just get out of here.
It was nightfall by the time they'd bought all the materials they'd need. They had an old water tank hauled up onto the roof, and there they started erecting a few poles around it to hold the water catcher. It was little more than a cloth that led water down to a pipe, but it took hours to get it sturdy enough to not blow away in the wind. That's it then, Nuke said at about 4 AM when the work was done. Thanks, future girl.
I don't think you'll want to thank me for this,
Izumi said with a smirk. What? Seriously, you stayed up to help me with this. You've more than earned your 95, you know. I feel like you've definitely made some progress with me.
Progress? I'm not your fucking teacher.
Not teacher, like you've progressed closer to me, right?
Prince Tashino, are you flirting with me?
Izumi asked, keeping her voice quiet. Not quiet enough.
Yes, he certainly is, madame,
Rick said. Rick was there too, by the way. I told you he never slept, and in the darkness of night he was hard to see, just standing there in the corner.
Rick, were you watching?
Izumi asked in shock.
Always watching, always remembering. Carry on, biologicals.
Are you just gonna stand there?
Yep.
Right. Prince, what do you think?
Well, we need to clarify something. I'm definitely not flirting with you.
Right. Thanks.
But by helping me out here, you've been flirting with me. You've entered my good graces, shall we say.
I don't want to say that. And why are you deciding that I'm flirting with you?
It's a data-driven decision,
Rick commented.
Shut up, Rick! Oh, I mean, I didn't mean it like that. Sorry, Rick.
Forget Rick. In fact, why don't we forget this whole thing? Nuke suggested.
Because you said I'm flirting with you, but you're not with me.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Why do I even talk to you? Ugh. Rick, would you like to go for a walk?
Got my walking stick ready, madame,
came the reply.
Good night, Prince Tashino. Enjoy your rain catcher. You know, next time it rains here, it'll happen one of these years. Unlike something else. See ya!
Rick escorted Izumi downstairs. Nuke looked up at the sky and realized he'd probably made a few mistakes that evening. Fuck, he said. All's not well that ends not well.
I told you it was green,
Izumi said as the group reached the top of the steep hill.
Green, as in the colour green,
Nuke said.
Yes, sorry to get your hopes up, Prince. Can't you just appreciate this? How often do you see a tree with green leaves, like in the books?
Tree, green leaves. Man, we better find something soon, Nuke muttered. You are right, Miss Izumi. This is rather unusual, Izayah said. They were standing below a palm tree, with short green leaves hanging from the top. A few other such trees were dotted around the hillside, but all was a wasteland as far as you could see in all other directions. Could these be the mythical green stalks? Gustafsson said. He placed a hand on the trunk and sniffed. Ah, ancient feelings. I cannot bear to associate, he went on, sitting down and putting his head in his hands. He wasn't the only one brought down by the place.
Been a long, long time,
Rick mused.
Since what, Mr. Rick?
Wadston asked.
since I been here. A real long time. Almost wouldn't know it. That was when those palm leaves were the least green thing you'd see from up here. Damn Earth clans would have taken it away if the king hadn't been here.
The mention of a king piqued Gustafsson's interest, and he scurried over. Izumi's pen dove into a vial of ink.
Provide me the name of this king, Metal One, Gustafsson demanded.
Stobe.
King Stobe.
Just Stobe. No king, really. Just the last of his kind. The survivor. The savior.
A king by default. Not so worthy, Gustafsson said with a wave of his arms. Rick, are you talking about Stobe as in Stobe's garden? Izumi asked.
You know that name? That's a Second Empire title for this place. You really ain't supposed to know that, biological.
It's my job to know it. I used to help with the Second Empire research.
Well, if folk have done their job, you won't find much else, I assure you of that.
What's that meant to mean?
Means some things are better off forgotten. That's why we better get out of here right now. Can't take it anymore.
What do you remember, Rick? Izumi asked desperately, but Rick shook his head and plodded off on his own.
Izayah, you know what he's on about? Duke asked.
Not as such. Stobe was mentioned in an old Shek legend, a cult or something. Let's be wary of another Red Rick grift, shall we?
The group followed Rick away from the hillside, and meandered southeast in the increasingly hopeless search for a huge, intact, yet unclaimed industrial hashish hydroponics facility in need of product recall. They snaked through a set of deep canyons, and then as the ground raised and levelled out again, they saw a most confusing melee up ahead. Humans, giant crabs, and some other things were brawling away.
Fishmen, Gustafsson said. Don't listen to anything they say.
In what way is it a fish, and in what way is it a man? Nuke asked.
They are the result of close association between humans and crabs.
Let's make a fishman,
Els cheered. Cool. Well, civilization's good for something then. Let's just stroll on by, Nuke suggested. However, as they did so, a group of these fishmen appeared from nowhere and were suddenly all over them, their atrophied claws snipping away and their phlegmy mouths gurgling melodically.
Wetter is not better. Don't listen to them, Gustafsson pleaded.
Oh, I love you too,
Els said, hugging a squirming crossbreed.
Do you have to be a certain level of freakish to understand them or something?
Nuke asked, plunging his blade between the thick exoskeleton of his assailant.
No, nothing like that. This one tells me I'm very handsome,
Izayah reported. Right, so you need to be at least an Izayah on the crazy scale, Nuke concluded. The group eventually slew all the chattering creatures, and Gustafsson told them,
They like to associate with things in a very particular way. They are unworthy, most terribly unworthy.
Oh, so it's like what I thought you were going to do to me, Nuke nodded.
It tickles,
Els said. A little creepy crawly was slithering around on his stomach. Gustafsson clicked his fingers and pointed at it. Ignacio, his bodyguard, moved up and removed the critter with a bite of his blunt teeth. Juice spurted out all over the place, and Ignacio gathered it up on his hands, then started slathering it over Gustafsson.
What? The actual bug?
Izumi shouted, unable to watch any longer.
Fools, Gustafsson shot back. Those burrowers can impregnate any species and any gender. They must be destroyed.
And the rubbing shed? Nuke dared to ask.
Their oil preserves the integrity of your skin. If you fleshy ones wish not to look like your manservant here, I suggest you apply it.
Narcos curses, no fucking way, Izumi said. I think we've learned everything there is to know about fucking fishmen. Let's fug off right now. Language, future girl.
It's not all that weird. Except that it is.
Charlie, don't rub it in. Don't listen to the bad green.
Let's all just move, shall we? Nuke said. They left the scene, with Wadston dallying just a little to scoop some of the viscous bug mank into a cup. It was a hard night for the group, ending up hopelessly lost on a mountainside with their map simply showing the area as a brown splodge with no features to speak of. They ended up unknowingly going back towards civilization, of a sort. There were lights up ahead, but Izumi demanded they keep their distance until the morning on account of the area's high bandit population. But this place was no bandit's lair. "Are you seeing this?" Nuke said. He was looking upon a roughly built village with regular humans just wandering around. I mean, that's amazing for out here, but he was actually surprised by the huge, scuttling, thug-off crabs that were also going about their business between the buildings.
I think, my prince, this is the source of that over-association between species,
Watchton said. Izayah directed Bobby and Claw to hold on to Els, whose eyes were already widening. Man and crab living side by side. Is this the power of association? Nuke asked.
Drones cannot associate,
Gustafsson was quick to point out. But I'm no drone. You guys stay here. Ignoring a barrage of protests, Nuke dumped his bag and ran off into the village.
My prince, who will help me protect him?
Watchton asked.
Now I don't know all that much about this association business,
Rick said.
But I think a man needs a little privacy to get it done right, right?
So wrong, Izumi said, taking a seat and pouring out a cap of rum. In the village, Nuke waved good morning to a variety of friendly neighborhood crabs.
Oi, what are you doing here?
Someone shouted at Nuke from a balcony.
Are you a customer?
Customer? Yeah, pretty much. You got green here?
You want a green one? Yeah, we got a green one.
Just one? I need loads.
Loads? Well, we've only got one in green.
What kind of business are you running here? Only one?
You think it's easy to rear crabs, buddy? You get what colours we got, alright?
Wait. 1 minute in the name of all that is fucking brown. You're talking about crabs.
What the fuck do you think I was talking about? This is Crab Town, mate. You want to buy a crab or not?
Aha, oh, Okran's blessing and Narco's gift.
Fucking yes!
Nuke exclaimed, rushing up into what turns out was a crab dealership and pulling strings of cats from even his most secret bodily stash. Not long after, Izayah drew his sword and yelled out,
Prince Tashino, behind you!
A huge green crab was plodding behind him as Nuke left the village. Nuke saw Izayah's concern, turned around and gave the crab a pat on its thick shell. Everyone, I want you to meet Prince, Nuke said, bringing his new friend closer. And that's not all, he added.
He's a crab boy. I knew he'd turn out to be a crab boy,
Izumi was muttering as Nuke went behind Prince and then returned with 2 tiny crablets. And by tiny, I mean they were about the size of 2 dinner plates rather than the size of a car. The orange one is Krusty, and this little fellow is Scut, Nuke said, handing them off to Izayah and Els to hold.
Oh my, it is rather special, isn't it?
Izayah said.
Crab friend, I was raised by crabs, you know,
Els said. Izumi hurriedly reopened the rum, threw away the cap and started swigging.
My prince, how much did you spend on those?
Watchton asked. No price is too high, was Nuke's reply.
All of our money. Months of work,
he breathed. Izumi put an extremely welcome hand on his shoulder and offered up the rum bottle. So, that's how the gang was slightly expanded in number and hugely expanded in mass. The mass was a bit of an issue, in fact, for Prince, the adult crab, could only stomp along at a modest pace.
We'll never get anywhere at a crab's pace,
Izumi complained. He's only just become free-range, future girl. Let him stretch his legs.
But we're gonna run out of food at this rate. Oh, and we're already out of rum.
Don't worry, madame. Let a strong man with arms of steel deal with this for you,
Rick said. With seemingly no effort at all, he lifted Prince off the ground and carried him overhead. The crab did not appear to notice, and waved its legs as if walking anyway, while Rick sped him forwards at a more reasonable pace. Anyone who saw this group that featured a red-faced robot wielding an entire giant crab probably decided not to mess with them, and as such, the crew wandered freely up the so-called Green Beach coast, which was certainly not worthy of the green part of its title, disappointing each in their own way. Becoming increasingly lost, they stumbled around in a vaguely northerly direction. They passed First Empire ships, forever beached far inland, and a huge docking facility, now sitting on the side of a sandy hill.
The sea used to come up here, Izumi explained, and there was an inland sea outside Brink.
So, where did it go? Nuke asked.
That is the question. Sea somehow lost a load of water during the wars at the end of the First Empire. Rick, want to tell me what happened?
I do not want to tell you what happened. Additionally, I do not know what happened, so please disregard my first statement,
Rick recited.
Perhaps you could do us the honor of at least telling us where we are,
Wadston suggested.
Pirates' End. We ended them good.
And is that near any shelter?
I haven't been here in 3,000 years, you know. Don't know where the best gentleman's club is these days.
Fair enough. Let's carry on that way,
Wadston said, and so they did. They ended up going inland a little, and all of a sudden Izumi knew exactly where they were. Ahead of them was another First Empire boatyard, sitting on the eastern end of that former inland sea she had mentioned.
Guys, I recognize this place. Been a while, but I'm pretty sure Black Scratch is on the other side of those cliffs, she said.
Sounds like at least a middling gentleman's club, Nuke commented.
It's where I worked after Brink. You can ask for the full story whenever you want, you know.
Must be good if you ran from it as well.
I was still working for them when I got stuck with you. And now, if you don't mind, I think we should pop back in and see what I'm owed.
Oh, now we're talking. It's bring your crab crew to work day.
Yeah, no chance I can convince you all to just stay here.
We'll all be on our best behavior, Miss Izumi,
Izayah said.
The crabs are house-trained after all. Negative. Can confirm to be false,
Rick said, much in need of a clean after a day with Prince over his head. Izumi could protest no more, and they carried on around the last lake of the inland sea, up some steep cliffs, and out onto a plateau scattered with First and Second Empire ruins, somewhat alive brown trees, and, most importantly, the walls and warmth of the city of Black Scratch.
No pets,
the gate guard said as Nuke and company approached. They're just toys, a life-size one, Nuke said. Els was cuddling the crablet in a convincing fashion already. It was 10 in the evening, and in the darkness it wasn't completely obvious that the crabs were squirming about, so everyone was waved inside.
Can't take these to the inn. We'll stay at the caravan station,
Izumi said, directing them to the west end of town, where a spread of bedrolls and campfires lined the grounds under the city wall.
Is it safe to stay here?
Wadston asked Izumi.
Yeah, this isn't the Empire. Guards' eyes are real, and there's nowhere to sell you, Izumi said.
If she was telling the truth, it sounded like Heft had a challenger for being the center of civilization, without doubt. At last, they could all get a good night's sleep. Nuke was awoken early in the morning by a kerfuffle going on outside the wall. He took his honor guard, Red Rick, Sandor, and Prince, to investigate. Black Scratch was an established city that had remained unconquered by the samurai lords of the Empire. While this certainly had its benefits, it meant it attracted a lot of attention from outlaws and Empire exiles. As such, it was a favourite target for a band known as the Grass Pirates, the same criminal network that had attacked Nuke and company on their way to Brink. Nuke ran out to assess the credit situation among the fallen, but his entourage did raise a few questions.
"Excuse me, sir," a guard said. "Is this giant crab yours, sir?" That's what a giant crab is. In that case, what's a hiver?" Nuke bluffed. "It's no monsters in Black Scratch, sir. This is a respectable town."
And what respectable town isn't guarded by a trained killer crab?
"Is that a rhetorical question, sir, or shall I provide a list?"
Hear me out. Me and my guild are in town on business. I see you've got issues with the locals. How about you don't ask any questions about our stay here, and in exchange, you'll have a giant crab doing your dirty work for you. The guard actually decided to try Nuke out on this offer, so Nuke didn't have to go with his backup plan of claiming to be blind and dependent on the guidance of the crab for navigation. As a result, he was able to smuggle a whole load of pirate stuff inside and fence it to the early risers among the locals. Eventually, Izumi appeared among them.
Prince, you're a leather jacket salesman now? She asked.
You talking to me or the crab? Nuke asked.
I don't care. Did you want me to show you around?
I guess. So you worked here?
Still work here. This is a hub for tech hunters. They're like real adventurers, and also scientists. Kind of the best thing in the world, you know?
If you love them so much, why don't you just marry them?
I've had offers.
Seriously?
Seriously? You jealous? You're turning green. That's the light reflecting off the crab.
Prince, stay here. Gonna go with Auntie Iz and get the inside angle.
Wait, please don't steal anything from this place. This is important.
Steal anything?
Not too much then. Really, it's important to me.
Fine, fine. Who proposed to you?
What?
Who said they'd marry you?
Why does that matter?
If I'm gonna pick and choose what I steal... Never mind. Go on, show me your libraries or whatever. The tour began, and among an assortment of well-stocked markets, depots and workshops, there were several bars, packed with patrons even at 7 AM, and plentiful supplies of food and drink. No hashish, but the excitement of getting a pet giant crab had eased Nuke's pains in that regard recently. Izumi took Nuke inside the Great Library, a Second Empire structure that housed rows of tall shelves packed with books.
Izumi, you're back already,
the skeleton receptionist said.
Already? It's been months, Curtis,
Izumi said.
Months? Well, doesn't time fly when you're deactivated? What about the rest of the crew?
Gave up on it all in Heng and decided to work for the samurai. I still have all the notes. Now that I'm back, I can compile everything. We've seen a lot. Well, not the original crew, but the new one.
Is the gentleman here your one?
Please, please don't put it like that.
I'm number one, if that's what you mean, Nuke said, ignorant to Izumi's fluster.
Incredible. I am number 482-740-83,
the skeleton said.
Just come upstairs, Nuke,
Izumi said.
Oh my,
the skeleton remarked, going back to its book. Upstairs, Izumi picked out a particular volume with a violet cover and found a certain page.
Look, this is my report on the Reaver's Lake ruins. It's published,
she said. Published? What's that mean?
It means the scholars thought it was good enough to go into a book.
But the book is in here.
Well noticed.
How are people supposed to read it?
They aren't.
Cool. Good use of time writing it then, huh?
We're keeping this away from people like you.
And you complain that I'm uneducated. The hypocrisy.
Put that back,
Izumi said, pointing at the parchment Nuke was trying to sneak into his ninja backpack.
Fine, fine.
Well done, future girl. You're a real history historian and stuff. You didn't have to prove it, you know.
Well, I did. And I'm going to become a lot better known in the high circles of the tech hunters with my next report. Going to be a book unto itself. That's why I wanted to ask you to stay here for a while, Prince.
Gotta go feed the crabs and stuff.
Not literally right. I mean, in the city. It'll take me a week to get all the notes together into something readable. Can you wait that long?
Do we need to be here for that?
I suppose not. But you don't... No, you can go if you want.
I don't want.
You don't?
No.
Good.
Great.
So, we can all leave together once I've settled everything.
Sure.
Thanks. Really. That means a lot to me.
Oh, it's nothing. I wouldn't just leave you here after everything.
You wouldn't?
Of course not. You were worried about that.
No, just... Doesn't matter. I'm relieved.
I'm happy too.
I said relieved, actually. But I am happy right now.
This always makes me happy, Nuke said, keeping his eyes on the ground.
This... You mean... Nuke.
Are you gonna kiss or what?
Rick asked. Yes, in the moment it was easy to forget that Rick and Sandor were standing on the other side of the bookshelf.
What? How dare you? This is an academic...
Izumi ran out of steam and just ran off with the point unfinished.
Always said nobles weren't good at anything. Thought talking would be the exception, Sandor commented.
Guys, you're fired, or whatever, okay, go feed the crabs and tell everyone we're staying for a week or something, Nuke said.
What are you gonna do?
Rick asked. Gonna check some stuff out here, Nuke said. Even he wasn't sure if this meant he was going to read the books or steal them. That there was any question was surely a sign of his growth as a young man. Wadston would have been proud. So, with Izumi now back in paying writing work, and everyone else babysitting a trio of handsy crabs, the crew settled in for a long stretch in Black Scratch. It was a quiet little corner of the world, but not quiet enough that the good old-fashioned credit management and non-consensual private healthcare guilds could not do lucrative trade, helped along by the Tashino Crustacean Corps Private Security Consortium. None of this was helping with the quest for a supply of clean green for the Emperor. However, their time in the city would actually advance the cause of Izumi's alternative Browntown Old School addiction scheme. With a little help from her friends in the Tech Hunters, Nuke was about to become a drug baron, a warlord, and several things in between. The isolated university town of Black Scratch had just enjoyed its most peaceful week in a long time. Having a giant crab working the doors really keeps the riffraff out, you know? Unfortunately for Nuke, he was being forced to speak to some of the riffraff inside.
This is Jazz. Jazz, this is the prince, Izumi said.
Beside her, on the roof of the bar, stood an equally scraggly-looking woman to whom Nuke vaguely gestured in greeting.
Pleasure to meet you, Nukey boy,
Jazz said. Her voice had a most unfamiliar twang. You can barely talk. Is this what the old town brown does to you? Nuke said.
Yeah, now I'm from the Naish. Had me in bloody chains half my life. Picked up a teensy bit of their accent.
Holy Nation, you mean?
Too right.
Oh, no wonder they're all so mad all the time over there. So, future girl, you said this was about your ancient addiction scheme.
It is. Jazz does the geo stuff, and she's got all the surveys for the local area. We've been looking it over, and there's a perfect place to grow chocolate here, Izumi said. Pretty much, yeah. So there's like this old river that's about 2 chugs short of being totally out of there, but what's left makes the fertility index of the ground shoot up like you're fucking dead. No offence. So yeah, it's got all the right nutrients for those old beans. Should be able to whip out a proper crop of choc in no time and get your whole empire cocoa loco, or whatever it was you wanted. Want me to sort it out for you? Jazz said.
The Holy Nation must be destroyed, Nuke muttered to himself. Well, always wanted to try home growing. Sounds like future girl already told you all our secrets, so I guess you're hired.
Too right she told me your secrets. You two got a Shek's chance in heaven if you carry on like all that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Nothing, Nuke. Prince, come on. Let's go see the growing site. Aren't you excited?
Izumi said, waving for Nuke to follow her down into the bar. Probably. Can't say I know what's going on, but we need a walk anyway. Let's round up the crabs and roll out, Nuke said. So it was done, and the guild assembled in the town square. Jazz joined them with a group of her fellow warrior scholars from the Tech Hunters. Gary was loaded up with tools, bricks and sheet metal, and the group plodded off down the hill. Even at a crab's pace, it was only a half hour or so to the ancient river canyon north of the town. It snaked back west into the United Cities Empire, and east into the lawless farmlands of the Stormlands coast. In other words, it was perfect for drug running. In fact, it was so perfect that when the guild arrived, 2 rival gangs were mauling each other over the prime turf.
Bloody hell, they've clocked it already, I reckon,
Jazz said. Worry not, milady. In the name of the Empire, I will conquer the Promised Land and show the world how a real drug dealer rolls. Release the crab, Nuke shouted. Prince and the guild's fellow soldiers moved up to clean the field of pirates and reavers.
He's always like this then?
Jazz asked Izumi.
Well, ever since he bought that fucking crab,
Izumi replied.
You've had a foul mouth on you ever since you went up his way, don't you think? He's been rubbing off on you. Don't put it like that.
Really? Thought you might enjoy it, you know? Huh? The only thing I'm not saying it like that. He taught me sword fighting, so shall we? Oh, be my guest, darling. I'll show these dregs how we got out of the camps, Jazz said, entering the raging battle with Izumi. With the two gangs being half dead already on account of each other, the TCM Plus Guild and their tech hunter collaborators cleaned house and carried on down the shallow hill to the bottom of the river canyon. The canyon had steep cliffs running in both directions, and their current entry point was the only way in or along it. There, at the crossroads of the underworld, there was a swampy cove in the canyon side. "This is the spot," Jazz said after tasting the mushy soil. "So, you sure you want to do this?" Prince?" Izumi said. "What exactly are we doing, by the way?" Wadston asked. "Isn't it obvious?" Nuke said. "We're going to use this wet mud to grow a drug so ancient that Dad hasn't made it illegal, and so addictive that people used to smuggle it in containers that were also made of it." He was referring to what he'd read about Easter eggs in Izumi's magazine, not that anyone else knew that. "We are going to go with the flow of history and turn green into brown. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to farm some drugs." Els clapped, everyone else looked at each other in confusion, and the great project began. Step 1 was to lay claim to the patch by blocking off the drug running routes. This took most of the day, with the crew shoveling earth to pile up inside a metal framework, making a set of sturdy walls that formed a compound around the drug spring. The tech hunters put up a hydraulic gateway to get in and out, and just like that, the TCM Plus Guild was a guild no more, but a tiny empire. And what would an empire be without soldiers? Nuke returned to Black Scratch and hired a group of mercenaries to patrol his borders. He also bought large quantities of mortar and sandstone and had them brought down to the river to build his new house. Good thing he brought a cadre of troops with him, as back down at the base the local reavers had become very confused regarding the walling off of their usual beat. "They've stolen our wacky backy patch!" one of them screamed, prompting an attack. However, ultimately the guild and its shiny new army were too much for them. They scurried away to tell their mates high and low about this unsettling new settlement on the scene. About a day after the guild had arrived, they had a dusty new HQ set up astride the drugs cove, and the drug smuggling routes were under their control. Only thing they didn't have was the drugs, which was brought up at a guild meeting the following evening. "Productivity remains low," Nuke reported, pointing at his hand-drawn chart, which was in fact just a blank piece of paper. "As you can see, we've got 0 kilograms of product ready to ship, and we can expect another 0 kilograms from the current crop. So, yeah, did no one think of this? No one's got any chocolate seeds. Future girl?" "I have them in the HQ. Well, the old HQ. The old HQ, actually. In the shed," Izumi said. "You and your bloody shed. That's a bit of a trek. Where else can we get them?"
"Prince Tashino, I've been near and far and never even heard of this chocolate," Izayah said. "I think Our Lady's archaeological finds might be our best bet."
But that's so far away. Maybe we can think of a new drug using what we have. Charlie, go and fertilize the swamp in your special way and see what happens. Wadston, my man, I want you to find out if we can milk the crabs." After some debate, neither of these ideas went forward. Not that we know of anyway, and instead they decided to go recall their own products from Heft. "Sheks, Wadston, Coinslot, you're with me and Gary," Nuke ordered. "Rest of you keep the crabs safe, and I guess the mank sand as well. Future girl's in charge." "Wait, Prince, I'll go with you. This was my idea after all. Let Mr. Wadston rest here," Izumi said.
"I don't need to rest," Wadston insisted.
"Guess I'll stay here then."
"Although, my back, perhaps I'll wait."
"Future girl is in charge because I need someone I can trust back here," Nuke stated.
"Just kiss already,"
Rick heckled.
"Oh yeah? Give her a snog goodbye,"
Jazz added. Izumi stormed out, and ultimately there was not so much as a wave goodbye when Nuke's team set off for the lengthy round trip back to the capital. "Try not to die," Nuke called as he went. This proved to be a difficult order to follow. There was more trouble with the Reavers stumbling into the base, but nothing Nuke's hired legions couldn't handle. However, then a more serious opponent came wandering down the river. It was a huge group of United City slavers off foraging for stock beyond the border. "What the fuck is this place?" their leader asked when they turned a corner and saw walls blocking their path. "Dunno, it's not that farm, is it?" a follower said. "We already visited the farm, idiot," another said, a stalk of wheat sticking out of his mouth. "Alright, calm down. So, where's that map?" the leader asked. He studied it for some time, to no avail. Then he looked up and realized he was surrounded by Nuke's troops and the guild caretakers, weapons in hand.
You picked a bad time to get lost, friend,
Jazz shouted.
"I'm not lost, I'm right where I want to be. Get the feisty one. In fact, get all the buggers. Let's have this place,"
the slaver boss called to his entourage, and with that, a huge brawl broke out.
I think you could have been more subtle, Jazz, Izumi said. To slavers, no point. If you got out of the niche like I did, you'd see how it is. Had a few scrapes myself, actually. Ah, what a big girl you are. Shut up, let's just kill them, shall we? That's the bloody spirit. Your little adventures straightened you out nicely, eh?
As dusk fell, the girls entered the battlefield. About an hour later, Izumi was over Jazz's shoulder, being hauled back inside. That both were alive was enough of a victory, given the scale of the battle. Nuke's soldiers had earned their pay many times over, killing the surrounded slavers, but not without serious injuries to themselves. They had been so thorough that only one of the slavers had escaped. Unfortunately, he escaped with Gustafsson's man Ignacio over his shoulder. After a night of resting and wound tending, everyone was back on their feet again, but stepping out of the HQ revealed that the troops were still skirmishing with the local ruffians non-stop. Clearly the guild had stepped on a real wasp's nest of a wacky-backy patch here.
This is too much, Izumi said.
Yeah, this is crazy, Jazz said.
Why are these dregs so wild? Maybe we should let them have their bloody corner and be done with it. Maybe, but the prince... Oh, you don't want Loverboy getting mad? I don't want him to be disappointed. In you, in general. Whatever, darling. Why don't we leave all this stuff to the professionals? Yeah, maybe.
Where is Ignacio? Came Gustafsson's voice from behind them.
He's there,
Izumi said, pointing at the other hiver milling about in the corner. That is not Ignacio, Gustafsson said.
What? Is that a tree wearing a leather duster then?
Jazz asked. That is Ren, my bodyguard. I'm speaking of Ignacio, my bodyguard. Yes, by the way, Gustafsson had hired another hiver for his entourage, but no one had noticed until now.
I don't know where he is then,
Izumi said. Gustafsson sniffed around the HQ, then around the battlefield a little, ignoring the fighting continuing on around him. He returned and said, They've taken him. Come, soldier, we shall retrieve him. Ren jumped to life and picked up a long katana.
Wait, it's too dangerous,
Izumi said. That is incorrect. I must retrieve him, Gustafsson insisted.
Wait, I thought you bugmen didn't really care about the little guys, disposable drones or whatever, Jazz said.
Ignacio is not disposable. He is associated to me. I'm leaving.
Prince Gustafsson, Prince Tashino said I'm in charge, and I really think we should stick together, Izumi said.
Heartless flesh! You are not worthy of your station. I must ignore you. I shall return. Gustafsson and Ren ran off in the direction the slavers had come from.
That's 3 gone. No wonder you lost your dig crew,
Jazz commented.
Shut up, Jazz. Nuke, please come back soon,
Izumi muttered. Nuke was standing in the old HQ in Heft, sizing up his crab claw trophy on the wall.
The bags can't be full, he said.
The chocolate seeds, the weapons, all those books, they are rather hefty, my prince,
Wadston said. I know, but I need the crab arm as well. I need it, my man.
You could leave a few of the books here. We will do just fine without them.
No, we won't. I won't. I need them too, for scientific research purposes, Nuke said. Rick opened Gary's pack and pulled out a load of small monochrome volumes.
What do we got here? The Underwear Ninja, The Prince and the Peephole, Yasuke X Rock Chain Beach Bonanza.
They have titles? Nuke exclaimed, rushing over. Ochre and spit, you can read the runes, Coinslot.
Sure I can. All these little marks are words. You want me to read it to you?
Fuck yes! Everyone take a seat, Nuke called.
Alright, not like we got anywhere to be or anything. How about this one? The Perverted Tale of Buck Chuck, Chapter 1. The Battle of the Spandex Bulge. We gotta make this shit illegal again, man.
In Black Scratch, Izumi reported the situation down in the river canyon and paid a premium for most of the city's reserve troops to come down and fight to protect the vital scientific work going on there. She returned to find that Sandor had gone missing.
He said he sensed danger, Jazz reported. Ran off after the bugmen. You're in big trouble now, eh? Fug, I'll go find them. You're in charge. Finally, my own corpse farm. I can retire,
Jazz said. She, the crabs and the reinforcement troops held down the decreasingly proverbial fort, and indeed picked up a pretty penny farming coins and weapons from the fallen slavers. But the would-be warlord Nuke had made a few enemies, it seems.
Oi, you this Jazz girl, one of the mercenaries called around the door of the HQ.
To right, what's chomping ya?
Got some weirdos outside who say they're from the crab crew or something. Here to ask about your crabbing license, I don't know. They've got fug-off armour and weapons. Oh, and crabs. Friends of yours?
Crab crew? Crab crew. No, doesn't bong a gong for me. Can you tell them to wait outside? I'll just get the licenses or whatever.
While the guards kept this crab crew company, Jazz gathered up Prince, Krusty and Scut and snuck them up the side of the canyon to a hiding place.
Not gonna let a bunch of crab wranglers put you in horrible cages, my darlings, she whispered to the crabs. Hope our lord and lady don't get mad though. Looks like we've all bloody deserted at this point.
Back outside the base, things were getting a little heated between the crabbers and the heathenous crabless ones.
I know you're hiding crabs in there, you sick perverts, the crab leader said. Sick perverts? You say that to me? You're practically a fish man already, a guard shot back. I have a very loving relationship with my crab. You could never hope to experience such joy, someone shouted. Fucking disgusting. I don't know where Jazz is, but forget it. Shove off the lot of you. Never. Hand over your crabs. Oh, I'll give you crabs. Wait, that sounded better in my head. Boys, kill these crab fuggers. Let's eat like nobles for a week, eh?
Another historic battle erupted, with mercenary samurai and swordsman scientists fending off crabs and crab enthusiasts alike. In the hills to the west, back inside the Empire, Izumi found Sandor, who himself had found Gustafsson and Ren, who themselves had been mugged by pirates and left for dead.
Bloody hell, I told them not to go,
Izumi said.
The hive had a sense of duty for his compatriot. This is the sort of bond that nobles cannot understand, Sandor commented.
Don't tell me you want to associate with him now.
He would never allow it.
Yes, well, consent is important, isn't it? Come on, we've got a duty of our own.
The humans lugged the unconscious hivers eastwards again. The day passed by without any sign of an end to the battle at the river, with just about everyone getting too injured to carry on fighting, but trying to continue all the same.
Crabs? Our best waifus,
someone muttered.
Degenerates. Must be purged, another voice said.
Darkness fell with the matter unresolved, but the pro-crab lobby had the upper hand in total legs still in use. Jazz still had their ultimate quarry tucked away on a nearby hill, but you can imagine she was getting a little worried seeing the base gradually fall and not seeing the strange guild she'd signed up with come back. So, overall, this whole chocolate thing was going a bit poorly. The guild was now split in 4, its money and manpower expended, its brand new headquarters under siege by all manner of foes, and several of its members too wounded to move, or too horrified by what Red Rick had read to them to face up to reality. And it was all that meddling future girl's fault. Was this the end of the old school Browntown dream? Or would you believe me if I told you that from all this madness, the perfect formula for a Coco Loco empire would emerge? The TCM Plus Guild's new semi-legal drug farm had been under constant siege from reavers, pirates, slavers, and, worst of all, interspecies Homo crustiopolycules, or the crab fuggers if you want the common name. How did the base remain standing amid all this? Well, turns out that reavers, pirates, slavers, and degenerates all hated each other just as much as whoever put that dirty Great Wall up across the foremost smuggling route in the region. The survivors from each group grappled with each other through the night after the main battle, and by about 3 AM, Jazz and her abuse-free crab companions crept down from the hills to be the last standing and claim victory. Not just victory. The equipment and supplies of all the invading armies now lay strewn around the riverbed, and corpse farmer extraordinaire Jazz got to harvesting. Further upriver on that same night, Izumi and Sandor hauled Gustafsson and Ren into a tucked-away United Cities farming colony. Unable to travel on in the pitch darkness, they hit the bar instead. Gustafsson and Ren were squirming about on hard beds upstairs, while the humans moped among the surprisingly busy tables in the main room.
This is fucking shit,
Izumi said once they were settled in.
This is perfectly ordinary,
Sandor said.
This shit happens all the time outside the towns. That's how the cities get all their stuff.
Yeah, this empire's a joke.
True. Listen. Do you think the prince really will be able to change anything?
I don't know. He really isn't like the other nobles, that much is true. But what are we meant to change if everything gets fucked up by a bunch of crab boys?
If the empire was suitable for everyone, the crab boys wouldn't be a problem.
I think crab boys are a problem in pretty much any context. Whatever. I mean, look at it this way. Our whole plan revolves around getting the emperor so baked that we can do whatever. You can escape any problem with enough drugs, they say.
A man at a nearby table span around and leaned closer.
Drugs, you say?
He asked.
Mind your business,
Sandor growled back. The scrawny man stood and moved a little closer.
Not planning on doing a little home growing, are ya?
Fug, what, do you want a bribe to stay quiet? Not in the mood, shitface,
Izumi said.
Akron's grace. You need a good dose of drugs, that's for sure. Was just gonna say, if you're looking for someone who knows what to grow in these here valleys, you need look no further like. Onulfo's the name, grower and shower, green lady knower.
Well, thanks. We're not growing green, but brown. Hard to explain. All a bit fugged up at the moment. Talk to me in the morning,
Izumi said. So that's what 2 of the guild's 4 divisions were up to that night. As it happens, the stories of the 3rd and 4th managed to converge. Nuke and his entourage were bringing all manner of junk back from Heft, including the vital chocolate beans in which the future of the entire empire surely lay. They had just reached Eyesocket, the United Cities market on the edge of pirate territory, where they decided to take a break. To be more specific about the nature of this market, it was a regional centre for slave trading. As such, the town was full of cages, dealerships and hawkers.
"Get your scrubbers!" one was calling. "Finest second-hand hands to hand over in a second. Discount if they don't have a second hand. Buy one hand and the second one's half off. Andy!"
Despite the masterful salesmanship, Nuke was peering at a hiver lying in one of the cages. "Guys, you recognize that one?" he asked.
"Why are they selling an old bit of wood?"
Izayah asked. "I think that old bit of wood might be Gustafsson's friend. Anyone remember his name?"
"Hey, Twiggy Iggy!"
Rick called. The dormant log sprang to life.
Master's associate, where is the master?
He asked.
"Dunno. You sniff him up the wrong way or something? How'd you get here?"
Ignacio explained the Battle of Manksand Cove, although he only knew the very beginning of it.
"We must hurry back at once. What if Miss Izumi is in danger?"
Wadston said. "Well, they ain't here at the market, so clearly it didn't go all that bad," Nuke reasoned. "But yeah, forget the cocktails and tanning, let's just get out of here. Everyone go wait outside. I'll deal with the situation here." Getting his meaning, the group went to go make a scene over by the front gate. They hadn't actually intended to make a scene, but Els had asked Rick if skeletons could have babies, and the debate proved far more contentious than expected.
Let me tell you all about the old 0101,
Rick began. Enraptured, the guards didn't notice Nuke opening Ignacio's cage in the middle of the marketplace. The hiver was one leg short of a full complement, so Nuke shouldered him like the lumberjacks of old and made a run for it. Everyone scarpered post-haste and buggered off eastwards into the beginnings of the legendary Drug Canyon. Going home via this route meant they wandered right past the little farm where Izumi and company were hiding. Izumi flagged Nuke down from the roof of the bar and rushed outside for the sweet reunion.
Where the fuck have you been?
She screamed at him. Well, I suppose it wasn't so sweet. Alright, just been learning up a few things. Did you know that this symbol on the front here means perverted? Nuke said, brandishing a heavily annotated copy of a priceless ancient classic.
We nearly died! We got royally fucked, Nuke!
Heard about the slavers. Look, we got the Bugman back.
This is serious! It's far more than slavers. We don't know if Jazz is alive. We left her behind. And I thought something had happened to you as well, since you didn't come back. Ogren's blood.
Future girl, I'm sorry, Nuke said, putting a hand on her shoulder. Man, I'm sorry, okay? I'm gonna sort this out. Bad Green, got your man here. Gustafsson nodded to Ignacio, who nodded back from across Nuke's shoulders. Gary's got all the goods, and you guys are still alive, so this ain't so bad, right? Although Sandor looks kinda different. Arnulfo was standing behind Izumi.
Oh, your ninja man went on ahead to check out your farm, I understand, he said. I'm Arnie, grower, shower, Browntown goer.
It's not really what it sounds like,
Izumi assured everyone. Arnulfo joined the group on the walk further down the canyon towards the HQ, a walk that increasingly becomes a wade as the ground gets swampier on the approach to the sacred cove. Sandor waved them in once they got close. The walls still stood tall, some of Nuke's troops were patched up and patrolling the surrounding hills, and the corpses had been mostly harvested and tidied away. They went inside, where Nuke had a much sweeter reunion with his loyal crabs, and at last the guild was back in action. All in all, after all that chaos and fighting, their only loss had been half of Ignacio's leg, which when compared to what happened to the raiders was certainly the better way to come out of all that. Right, so I'm never leaving you lot in charge of anything, ever again, Nuke stated.
It was your girlfriend in charge, so it's all her fault,
Jazz said. Yeah, she gets a free strike since she's my personal historian.
Is that what the kids are calling it nowadays?
No, they call it Etch-a-Sketch.
What? It's a reference to the classics, don't worry,
Izumi assured her old friend.
So, Prince, you did bring the chocolate beans.
Yeah, I got the beans, baby, Nuke said, flipping over Gary's pack, digging through the crusty books, and dragging out a huge sack. Browntown, you're up. Arnulfo took a look at the beans, gave a few a good, repeated lick, making sure to look each person present in the eye as he did so, and then he finally concluded,
It's perfect! These'll grow in your mank like crotch rot and taste twice as good.
And so, with this professional opinion reeling in the guild's minds, work began on old Farmer Nuke's ancient ranch. The coincidental yet resounding victory at the Battle of Manksand Cove brought them a good fortnight of peace and quiet, and allowed them to freely bring everything they needed down from Black Scratch. After a few days, Izumi's co-workers had set up an office for her in the corner of the compound, perfect for the close study of this increasingly famous mank that the chocolate was growing in. Yes, that is the scientific term for it. It stands for mushy and nutritious crap. This crap was long known to the tech hunters. The First Empire had used certain fertilizers to grow crops on the planet's half-baked land, and there were patches of it still stewing away in the ground today. Combined with the fact that the chocolate beans had been fiddled with thousands of years back to make them grow practically overnight, the first crops of fresh brown were piled up by Arnie after just a couple of days. Growing crops is easy, my man, Nuke commented to Wadston. What was all that stuff with the Red Rebellion about then?
While I am no expert, my prince, I believe that not everyone has equal access to the wondrous mank that we do, Watson said.
Not to mention the bandits,
Izayah added.
I mean, not every farmer has walls and sword arms like ours when the hungry crabs come calling, you know.
Or the government samurai,
Sandor added.
Yeah, I get it. People just need to get energized and farm that shit like us. Chocolate gives you energy, right? Yeah, we'll dose everyone up with brown and turn this damn planet green with our own hands. Then I really will be the Green Emperor. I'll inspire the people to have courage in the face of this miserable shitstorm we call life. Get them cocky with the chocky and we'll be over the moons.
Leaving everyone to debate Els' interpretation of getting cocky with chocky and to fight furiously to prevent a demonstration, Nuke went to Izumi's office. She was slaving away at a desk covered in books in varying degrees of completion. "Milady," Nuke said as he entered.
Not yours,
Shot back the reply. Let's check the contract on that one. Anyway, people are saying...
I don't care what they're saying, we're not an item.
So yeah, people are saying they don't know what to do next with the chocolate. Cocky, chocky...
Oh, right, sorry, did I say... Oh, hello, Nuke, Prince, didn't see you.
Something on your mind?
Not in the slightest. Yes, chocolate. The cocky chocolate... Wait, what the fuck?
Just testing the waters.
Narcos laughter. So, chocolate, yeah, it's sugar, water, cocoa. We need to get Julian to make a machine. Might have to shop around for the parts.
Another walk for me, is it?
No,
Izumi said, jumping around to face Nuke. Fine, calm down.
Don't go again, Nuke. It was no good. I messed up.
You didn't mess up. Everyone except you messed up, you know?
Kind of you to say that.
Kind of weird to disagree. This is happening because of you. With your brains and my brawn, we'll get a whole lot of people addicted to drugs. That's a dream we can believe in. Future... girl? Izumi was ruining the mood by tearing up.
I thought someone was gonna die because of me. I thought I would die. I don't know how you do it, Nuke.
Nuke, the true gentleman of the Third Empire, awkwardly went in for something resembling a hug. I guess I'd just keep going, since even if we don't make it all the way, that doesn't matter, does it? That's not the world we live in, or whatever. What matters is what we're doing, like right now. Making things better and being... around.
I do like it, Nuke. Being together.
Tragically, Red Rick wasn't sitting in the corner for a well-timed heckle, so Nuke had to actually think of a response. That's convenient, isn't it? Was his eventual effort. It landed better than you'd think, but the stilted nature of the phrase seemed to restore reality. The hug-like pose was quickly disengaged, and Nuke marched out. "Chocolate machine then, thanks future girl," he called without looking back.
Glad to be of service, Prince Tashino,
Izumi almost shouted, before slumping down in her chair and collapsing onto her pile of papers. A week of hard labours passed, featuring the planting of sugarcane, wheat and soybeans for Izumi's master plan, and the construction of a large factory building to house the chocolate-making gear. Arnulfo had been given a team of likely lads and lasses from nearby cities to form his workforce, and together they had got Manksand Cove pumping out produce as fast as Els could fertilise it. The sugarcane was stripped and ground into sugar. The soybeans were pressed and pureed into milk, and the cocoa was shredded and compounded with the sugar to make disgusting, acidic lumps of pure chocolate. It was brown, alright, but only the crabs could stomach eating it. That was where Izumi's master recipe came in. The wheat was crushed into flour, mixed with the soy milk, and then cooked in a huge outdoor oven, creating a delightfully wobbly yet infuriatingly sticky white mush. Remember, mush, moderately unpleasant slop hulk, should never be confused with mank. The chocolate could be mixed into the mush to make somewhat likeable uncooked dough gunk extract, which when cooked created the most wonderful, soft, fluffy, sweet, filling...
"John Fuggin' Crab's coming in hot from the east,"
Red Rick shouted from the wall.
Slaver raid arriving from the west! Close the gate!
Wadston reported from atop the factory roof. Yes, if you think things were getting a little bit too domestic in Nuke's corner of the world, you're forgetting just how popular this soggy corner was. The guild's crew rushed to defend the main gateway and man the walls. Since the time of the Great Battle, the fortifications had been extended and fitted with electric harpoon guns. Gustafsson was an expert with the design and operation of these weapons, and had kindly instructed all of the new farmhands how to use them. Therefore, when a crowd of crabs, traffickers, and crab traffickers charged the compound gate, a barrage of bolts and spears spat down at them from the walls. The crabbers weren't too fussed, with both man and beast covered in armour.
Snippy, snippy, claw, claw, snippy, claw,
they chanted as they smashed at the front gate. Some of the crabs helped bend the bars apart to let their masters inside, but others were distracted by the gang of slavers milling about behind them.
There's a bloody queue to raid this damn farm,
a slaver complained.
The slaving infrastructure around here's terrible. They should have a second gate to reduce wait times,
another commented. Everyone nodded along in agreement. However, they soon encountered a slight problem. The consortium of crabs in front of them had been promised some dirty humans to snip in half, and the slavers certainly looked dirty and human enough. Snippy, snippy, claw, claw, the poor old slavers were no more. Still, the delay meant that a lot more sharp mist was cast down before the gateway, and by the time the gate was properly torn open, the crab crew was too injured to make it past Nuke and company waiting on the other side, especially when Prince was joined by the now adult-sized Krusty and Scut, forming an impenetrable wall of crab mightier than any steel gate or array of harpoon cannons.
I told you, Fugs, I don't need a crabbing permit, Nuke called as battle was joined.
Crabless ones who actually do have crabs. Now that's even worse,
a crabber reasoned. Fortunately, the guild was now able to slay the invaders without any casualties, and get to work bending the gate back into shape. In one curious incident, Izayah thrust his katana right through a crabber's armour, but when he pulled it back out, the blade was covered in something brown and sticky.
Okran's might! You really should try emptying yourself out now and again,
he said as he winced.
It's only chocolate,
were the crabber's last words as he fell. Els was called up to perform further inspection, and indeed, the crabber had stuffed his armour with chocolate, pilfered from an overturned wheelbarrow. So, the Fishman fathers like Chocky, Nuke said. That's a good sign. If it turns out no one can stomach the stuff, we'll convert this place to a crab ranch and lure all those weirdos into their doom. Take their crabs and raise them as our own. In a not weird kind of way.
Not weird at all,
Izumi said.
But don't worry, we'll do just fine with the chocolate bread, I assure you.
Ah yes, the bread. As I was saying, one turns mank into mush, mush into sludge, and sludge into the most joyous and sweet foodstuff to grace the land since sliced sand cakes. It was like bread, but with a Moorish tang and a sugary softness. The greatest invention of all time, except the time it was invented before, the official Nuke Tashino High Quality Mouth Pro Edible Adventuring Loaf version 2, sweet as the Manksand Canyon Wind on a Summer's Day edition. Or, Nuke said, for short, brown bread. He held up a yellowish-brown loaf before the assembled guild.
I think that name might be taken,
Wadston said, but his voice must have been carried away on the Manksand Canyon Wind, for it went unheard. Thanks to the hard work of Browntown and his horrible team of dregs, we have manufactured 100 lumps of the new wonder drug. But the proof is made of pudding or something, and that is why it is time to test the markets. All non-disgusting guild members and Charlie will be coming with me on a little sales tour. Rest of you dirty mank-scratching types, you keep mining for chocolate or whatever, and get this bread. While I'm gone, the crabs are in charge. Got it? The confused grumbling was taken as a yes. With this, the guild was back on track for adventure, with Gary loaded up with the new wonder drug. Would brown bread take the world by storm? Well, perhaps that is the wrong question. If we are to take Nuke's view of things, it didn't matter, did it? A nice trip to deal an as yet unbanned drug was good enough to enjoy no matter the result, especially with his good friends and associates to share it with. Back on the road, with start a chocolate factory ticked off his bucket list, Nuke began a new brown bread adventure. Oh, look at that, they're being mauled by a beak thing. Yep, that's pretty much how this adventure's going to go, isn't it?
It's your lucky day, Nuke told the shopkeeper. Said shopkeeper peered out from underneath a garrow, his face covered in... well, let's just ignore what it was covered in. You want to buy a leaky garrow? The shopkeep asked. Even better, I want to give your face a whole new kind of brown, Nuke said, whipping out a somewhat crushed choco bread loaf and boinging it down onto the counter. Oh, a sponge! Nice one, mate. No, you have to eat it. Mind if I use a little dip? Yes, I fucking mind. Come here, you dreg. Nuke grabbed the shopkeep and started forcing the brown bread into his mouth. It's delicious, huh? You like that? You can fit it all in, come on. Izumi peered around the door just to check, but quickly disappeared again. This sponge is alright, the shopkeep spluttered. Swallow, Nuke demanded. Izumi almost doubled back. Once the poor shopkeeper had complied, Nuke snapped his fingers. Now, my man! At this, Wadston shuffled into the shop with a lit candle and got as close to the shopkeep's face as the local aroma would allow. I see, the doctor said. See what? Is it working? Nuke asked. I fear not, my prince. No signs of increased bodily activity. The mechanisms of addiction have not engaged. Fug! Eat another one, you impenetrable lout! I like it when he shouts at me, the shopkeep grinned, grabbing another loaf and chomping away. A guard slid over from the other side of the farm shop. Master, couldn't help but notice these freaks are force-feeding you sponges. Everything under control. It's the best thing I've shoved in my mouth all day, mate. You ever tried working under the garrows? The shopkeep said with a crummy grin. He wolfed a few more handfuls of brown bread, but Wadston was not able to report any signs of physiological or psychological dependency. Nuke stormed out and pointed at Izumi. I stuffed it down his throat, but it didn't turn him, he complained. Perhaps we could use more scientific language, Izumi suggested. Data concludes you suck. Now that's ambiguous given the context.
Damn biologicals. Obsessed with sticking shit in one end or the other,
Rick said.
Can we just get out of here? These tech hunters gonna hunt my rare ass for scrap any second.
Still pretty ambiguous there, Rickard,
Izayah noted, but indeed they did get out of there. Test Subject 1 in Black Scratch had not reacted to being choked half to death with brown bread, quite as Nuke had hoped. No, I don't know what specifically he was hoping for. When they left town, Gustafsson sent Ignacio back down to watch over the base, on account of the hiver's new wooden leg not faring all that well on the road. Keep your nose open. When I find a suitable replacement for your leg, you will detect it, Gustafsson said. Ignacio seemed to know what he was talking about, and plodded off back to the chocolate factory. The gang made it to Brink, where they all gathered around to watch a local farmer steadily chew on a loaf, their eyes transfixed on the slowing rise and fall of his bristly jaw, until finally the mouth opened and produced the words, "It's alright, I guess." "No!" Nuke shouted, head in his hands. Yes, as you might be able to tell, brown didn't have the same effect on people as green. It was more comparable to an orange, I'd say. In his frustration, Nuke went and robbed the local police station. I mean, isn't that the best way to relax? Not in this case, as he was spotted, and the group had to skip town at a sprint to escape the local samurai. They raced west into the desert night, losing their pursuers, but falling into a pirate ambush instead. Out of the frying pan and into a mug of slightly above room temperature tea. And by that I mean the pirates were dispatched quickly, and their bodies cleaned of all treasures, but for a single calling card, a malformed blob of mucky, brown speckled starch. a free sample. Gotta pull out all the stops when you're bringing a new product to market. After crossing the windy deserts around the Eye, the crew hit their next stop in the quest to give the world a taste for brown bread. It was a caravan outpost in the Grey Desert, flanking the road that ran alongside the high ridge between the Deadlands and the less Deadlands.
Prince Tashino, allow me to try this time,
Izayah said just outside the gate. Be my guest. Remember to tell them it's full of nutrients, Nuke told him, handing over a bundle.
You said that wasn't allowed,
Els complained, but best ignore where that rabbit hole leads. Inside the wall of the compound, Izayah entered the caravanner's bar with a confident stride, stepping cleanly over the corpse in the doorway.
Friends, countrymen, he announced, it's time for much merriment and pleasure, for the delights of Browntown descend upon us.
People were listening, but not necessarily in a good way.
I have here in my blessed hands lumps of Okran's love, dollops of Narco's cunning, the most wonderful masticatory experience you'll have all day, all year. Behold.
Everyone beheld the clutch of knobbly brown, and then returned to beholding the fine details of the inside of their eyelids. Izayah threw the produce down on the bar.
So, are you ready to buy?
He asked the barman. The barman, a dark-skinned Shek who looked like he'd had far more offensive things slapped down on his bar, clawed off a scrap of bread and raised it into his mouth, his eyes locked on Izayah's the whole time. Those eyes suddenly widened, and then seemed to grow dewy.
It's...
he said, but there was no time for words. He eagerly swept the rest of the brown mound into his gaping maw, and consumed it noisily. Then he looked Izayah square in the eye again.
Pale skin, where did you find such a blessing? Well,
Izayah said, puffing out his chest and turning to address the room.
Only from the Tashino Credit Management and Non-Consensual Private Healthcare Guilds in association with the Tashino Crustacean Corps Private Security Consortium and the Future Girl Industries Semi-Professional Association of Archaeological Grudge Settlers and Ancient Quasi-Amateur Baking Enthusiasts.
So this must be the TCMMPHGINTCCPSCFGISPAAGSAQABE I've heard so much about.
The barman nodded. He happily paid for his pudding, and Izayah reported the good news to the gang outside.
I gave it a taste myself. It's actually incredibly delicious, he said.
What? Let me try,
Izumi said.
Wait, you didn't even try it?
Nuke said.
No, I'm not stupid. This stuff could kill you for all I know.
Cool. That's quasi-amateur baking for you.
But actually, I don't know. It's okay.
Could it be that there is a difference in the reaction of each species?
Wadston suggested.
Could be. I mean, Izayah likes it. Disgusting fat man really likes it. But all the humans don't really care. Prince Gustafsson, will you try some?
Gustafsson shook his head.
It is the wrong color. I refuse to digest it,
he said. Izumi offered Bobby and Claw a sample, and they both drew a thumbs up and a smiley face on their little chalkboards.
It seems we have our answer. It's a Shek thing,
Izayah laughed. Then we've got some money to make in your part of the world, big man, Nuke said.
Ah yes, my part. Well, I had rather hoped to stay away from there, actually.
What? Why?
He need not explain,
Wadston insisted. Fine, but we gotta go check it out anyway. I mean, this whole brown thing's on the verge of being a bust. If we can at least get someone addicted, I'll let you all off the hook. A plan was drawn up for a marketing research march west towards the mighty Shek kingdom. They had to skirt the southern edge of the Deadlands, walking on the narrow ridge between the black fog on their right and the burning white-sanded space laser-baked desert to their left. Soon night fell and it was black in all directions, but the light of a nomad caravan led them to the main westward road. Nuke went over to have a word with this caravan and make a certain purchase from them. When he returned, he had his hands hidden behind his back. "Good news, guys," he said. "We're going the right way, roughly, according to those guys. And, much more importantly, I thought of a way to sell more chockies to the stockies." From behind him, he revealed a brown bone dog puppy. This is Choco, our official product mascot.
By Narco's justice, that's incredible!
Izayah exclaimed, rushing forward to take Choco in his arms. Thought you might like her. You see, if there's anything a tough old Shek likes, it's cute dogs and a bit of chocolate, Nuke said. Obviously, Charlie isn't allowed either, but the rest of your people should pay handsomely for it.
Wow, Nuke, you kinda did something clever there.
Izumi commented. Oh, so when I buy a crab you complain, but a dog's fine?
Yes, that's exactly it. Wait, you didn't understand that?
Gustafsson leant in to get a close sniff at Choco. I'm not sure if I should associate, he said. Choco licked at his face. Oh, it has associated with me. Anyway, with a new mascot riding on Izayah's shoulder, they pressed on westward through the night. It was an exhausting journey, especially the part where they were attacked by beak things and subsequently had to carry the unconscious hivers along with them. The area southwest of the Deadlands was very far from civilization, with the United Cities Empire far to the east, the Holy Nation far to the north, and the Shek Kingdom not quite so far to the west. Yet still, somehow, in the middle of a wasteland plain, there was a lonely bar the crew could stumble into around dawn. Only problem was that a mob of hungry wastelanders had been waiting for just such a travelling party to arrive. Brandishing cleavers and broadswords, they approached Nuke and issued their ultimatum. Give us your food, or we'll eat your flesh.
Much more polite than those other cannibals,
Izayah noted. So you guys are hungry, huh? Nuke said. He opened Gary's pack and pulled out the product. How about you chow down on some of this? Best food in the world and your first hit's free. Tell your friends. In this fashion, the brown market was expanded, and the cleavers cleaved nothing but pillowy loaves of teeth-rotting bread. Inside the bar they made a few more sales on the good word-of-mouth marketing, more than enough to cover beds for the night, or day as it was. They had particular interest from an old farmer named Lon, who Nuke hired to go work the chocolate fields and ramp up production for the potential Shek connection. While the crew rest up before the next leg of their journey, let's spare a thought for poor old Lon, shall we? Armed only with a blunt sword and a pair of cargo shorts, he was asked to travel all the way back to Nuke's farm alone. It was a near impossible journey, yet a hungry wastelander like him had nothing to lose. He set off east, planning to make the risky desert crossing beneath the space laser, for it was indeed the fastest route to Manksand Canyon. It was dawn, so there was no hope of the laser deactivating anytime soon. However, that wasn't the main danger in the region, it turns out. The laser's turf, the region known as Venge, was strewn with ruins and wreckage from ancient wars killed by the Eye in the Sky, or nearly killed. Behind Lon, a trio of headless skeletons crawled out from the rubble and started thumping towards him. Lon legged it, but these skeletons had been charging their batteries for a while. They caught up to him and struck at him with long metal poles, each hit spurring Lon to push ever harder to escape. They passed ruins both ancient and modern, across open plains dotted with cacti, and through narrow valleys watched over by semi-dormant iron spiders from the Second Empire. Eventually, the inevitable happened. A laser beam shot down and scorched the earth right where Lon was running. It burned his skin, and he just barely stumbled from the light before it was too late. He looked back, hoping the skeletons had been hit as well. They had, but these headless hunters seemed completely undaunted. Cursing the weakness of Okran and Narco alike, Lon's aching legs drove him onwards. He found himself running alongside the barely extant remains of an ancient road. It curved up a steep ridge, but unfortunately the skeletons had no trouble ascending it. Then there was sound from behind a large boulder. Lon prayed for a bandit attack, for at least it would get the attention of him. Nope. It was a dozen more headless bots charging out to join the chase. Was anyone so unlucky as Lon? Time would tell. He kept running, oh how he kept running, for a good hour or more at least. The skeletons were right on his tail, the tips of their metal prodders touching his back, their absent heads giving no room, or ram, for negotiation. Now missing though was the humming glow of the space laser. They had left Venge and entered the United Cities Empire. Incredibly, this random patch of distant, forgotten border was being patrolled by the samurai at that very moment. Lon screamed out for help, but the samurai just waved for Lon to lead the skeletons over to them. Too hot to move about in heavy armour, especially in the early afternoon sun. Once the two groups converged, the samurai did acquiesce to raise their weapons and try to stop the skeletons. They got most of them. Lon didn't stop for a second, sprinting on past the border and looking back to see that most of the skeletons had been embroiled in battle with the samurai. But not all. 5 were still right on him. Ah, how he yearned for the time when it was only 3, but he could be glad the time of 20 had passed. It's all relative, especially when you're running for your life. Lon's upturn in luck did continue. He was attacked by a few pirates who found themselves beset by the skeletons instead, allowing Lon to escape. Now only 1 skeleton was still on his tail. This was practically paradise. That one rampaging robot followed him all the way to Brink up on the mesa to his east, where at least he could use the string of cats Nuke had given him to grab some food, bandages and rest. Well done, Lon. Looks like you had quite the job interview there. But hey, you passed. While Lon rested in Brink that evening, Nuke and company were emerging from the lonely wasteland bar with a few armoured troops hired from within to bulk them up for their next stretch on the road. They used the last of the evening light to march west into the region known as Shem. Shem was a most incredible part of the world, all things considered. No space lasers, no acid rain, no slave camps, no bandit forts, not a skimmer in sight. A large lowland desert stretched out from the rocky heights the crew approached from, dotted with oases, a few plants, and herds of lumbering, peaceful herbivores.
This is shit,
Nuke proclaimed. No customers.
Man, this place really is the shit. Nostalgic. Once y'all are dead, might come back here,
Rick said.
Please don't say such mean things,
Watson said.
What, planning on living forever? I am. All the fishman juice in the world won't keep you going that long. Sucks. You gotta spend every day finding stuff to eat just to survive another day, and don't matter how many days in a row you do it, you still just die. Biological's got it bad. Guess we were hard on you back in the day, huh?
What are you talking about, Rick?
Izumi asked, but Rick just shook his head.
Ain't nothing. Nothing at all. Come on, I detected signs of life out on the plains. Might be hungry for your weird dry sludge fuel.
There was a camp for herders out amongst the oases, and while they were willing to buy the odd bit of chocky, they didn't have anywhere for Nuke's small army to sleep. They pointed them south to an old rest stop on the side of a hill. Soon you will all know peace, Gustafsson was saying to the herders' goats. The Goat King will return, and you will have purpose, I promise. In the flickering torchlight, it almost seemed like the goats nodded in response. The crew moved south and spotted the campfires the herders had mentioned. They were lit, which was bad news, and indeed upon closer inspection the hillside was occupied by a gang of bandits, resting beneath the mouldy green trunks of ancient trees. They must have seen Nuke and Guild approaching, but they didn't react. In the end, Nuke walked right up to their leader without any harassment at all. Even the bandits Shem did have kept to sociable working hours, it seemed. Sorry man, but I was wondering if we could have a go on the beds, Nuke asked.
Nope, rest time,
the leader said, not turning around. What if I said that I'd take you to Browntown if you agree? Nuke offered.
I'm not falling for that one again,
the leader said, suddenly standing and directing his men to attack. Whatever the story was there, it would be lost to history, and the guild troops slew the bandits and claimed themselves some accommodation for the night. They were at least halfway to the Shek kingdom, but they'd also managed to offload about half of their choco stock already through sales, bribes, free samples, forced samples, and recreational use. Just as well, as Izayah was obviously quite peeved about the idea of going to his homeland, for reasons he had agreed not to tell anyone. If only he knew what was waiting for him there, he would have rushed off to go there that very night. As the morning light washed across the sleepy Shem hillside, Nuke and company realised that their campsite was especially luxurious. Not only was it just a few minutes' walk from a goat shop, not only did the bandits respect the no noise after 10 PM rules, but atop the slope there were huge green-leafed trees.
No way. How is this possible? Izumi said, jumping up from her camp bed. She prodded at Izayah, who squirmed about.
Raining cats and dogs? Ah, wonderful,
he muttered. After some further invigoration, he added,
I had heard of this place, the great swamp on the edge of the old lands. The trees grow tall and old, unlike anyone who treads there. That's why you don't hear much about the place, of course. Perhaps Rickard's good stuff censor will pick something up about it.
Rick was unusually lying on the ground, his head pointed over at the tree line above them.
Stobe's legacy. Take it in,
he said, but that was all he wished to divulge. Well, let's take a peek, shall we? Nuke said, rushing up the hillside. At the top, he saw a sprawling forest covering the hills as far as he could see, with a thick, leafy canopy, brooks and pools of glistening water, and beds of vibrant mosses and fungi. The gang joined him, standing with mouths agape. It was life. Life all over the place.
Could this be
Earth? Nuke muttered.
Earth's literally right there,
Izumi insisted, pointing at Okran in the sky.
If it had been further away, maybe this wouldn't be all that's left,
Rick said. The ground was soggy, and the skeleton's weight was gradually pressing him down into it. Water pooled about his feet.
Man, it's so delicate. No place for us, they said. Kinda see why. You know what, guys? I want to tell y'all something.
He didn't tell them anything. Why? Because the quiet moment was derailed by Nuke shrieking. You see, his feet too had been sinking into the wet ground as he stood, and when the groundwater had pooled over his open-topped sandals, the searing, familiar burn of the Deadlands launched him into the air.
Fucking acid again! Shit!
He shouted, jumping to stand on some tree roots. But when he grabbed the trunk to stay upright, he was sent reeling back again.
How does that burn as well?
He complained, running back to the sandy campsite.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, biologicals. Had to add a little repellent to keep this place intact. Funny what you forget over the years, huh?
Rick said, following the group back out of the majestic forest. So that's why the crew had to take a much more dull route to the Shek kingdom, heading around the great swamp through the dramatic yet unnamed region of the world that sat roughly in the center of the three great powers. The deep canyons and towering mesas made up what was only known as the border zone. Nestled in the landscape were crumbling ruins of military bases and sparse colonies, property of the Holy Nation, as Izayah explained.
It's a mess. Holy Nation zealots decided to move on in a few decades back. Came and destroyed our outposts and set up their little villages. But there they were, so confident that mere Shek could never threaten them, that they didn't even put up walls. My mother came out here in her younger days with 100 guardians, real fighters, and killed them all. By the stories you hear from the invasion, death was too good for them. But that's how it stands. As for my own insight, I can only tell you that these valleys now, while part of the Shek kingdom in theory, belong to none but the scavengers. I spent 2 years keeping the caravans out of their grasp. But then Holy Nation patrols started coming down as well, and you know what they think about Shek, so that was the end of my little mercenary career. Seems to me you're still doing it,
Rick commented.
Oh, yes, I suppose. But the prince is a rather higher class of customer,
Izayah said. This drew attention to the fact Nuke was wiping sweat from his brow with his hands, then slurping at his palm. It's still got rum in it, he said when the attention became rather palpable. Charlie taught me this little secret, master of his craft.
Wish not, want not,
Els chimed.
And if it's not waste, you don't want it,
Izumi added. The journey through the borderlands was punctuated with a few failed heists by the canyon highwaymen. In some cases the failure was so radical that the bandits got heisted and hoisted, booted and boosted, sniped and swiped. That is to say, they were dragged off behind the large guild entourage as bounties. After 2 days of the old uppy-downy, to use the exciting hiking terminology, they reached what remained of the sea that all these canyons once drained into.
There it is,
Izayah said, pointing ahead. There was a mountain with a huge split down the middle, forming a pass right through it.
That's the gateway to the kingdom.
Finally, let's get in there and get them chock-locked, Nuke said. Izayah sighed and followed him onwards. Approaching the gateway brought them down into the lowlands of the Sten Basin, where huge spiky orbs sat happily on dusty bluffs.
Are those giant fucking sea urchins?
Izumi asked.
Sand urchins, but yes, giant and fugging too,
Izayah said.
It must have all been underwater.
Izumi looked to Rick as she spoke.
Look, I'm tired of these accusations that it's somehow my fault the seawater got vaporized,
the skeleton said.
I didn't really... Rick, did you...
This ain't no trial, sister. I do not recall. I do not recall. Case closed. Now let's go lie down, shoot up, or whatever you flesh-mesh freaks want to do in there.
The in there he was referring to was Squin, the great border fortress of the Shek kingdom, nestled in the mountain gateway. As they approached the gate, Izayah finally ground to a halt.
My apologies, but I think I will wait for you outside, he said.
Bobby and Claw immediately broke off too and joined him. Is this your paleness thing? Are you embarrassed? Oh, come on man, who cares what they think? Let's make this fucking town remember your name, Nuke said, but the encouragement didn't land.
It is more important than you think. I would rather not discuss it. I'm sure me staying here won't cause any trouble, will it?
Guess not. Still, just seems wrong.
Welcome to life, my prince. Take all the time you need.
With this, Izayah ran off with Choco into the crags flanking the mountain, his guards close behind. What is all that anyway? Charlie? Nuke asked. El shrugged.
He's the wrong colour. Wrong colour means you're ill.
Gustafsson nodded in agreement. With no real answer, Nuke and company were subject to a drug search at the gates. But what could the guards say about the brownish mush buried in Gary's bags? You haven't even heard of NTHQMPEALV2SATMCWOTSDE, Nuke scoffed.
Oh, brown bread,
the guard nodded, unamused but unsuspicious also. At least the marketing must have been working. In they went, with the first port of call being the police station to offload the dregs of the border zone for a cash reward, then straight to the bar with cash in hand. Nuke was waiting in the lunchtime queue, drawing plenty of skeptical looks for being the only human there, not to mention being dressed like a ninja, as he usually was these days, when he saw something shining in the corner of the room. Sitting alone by the rum barrels was another albino Shek.
I knew it was allowed,
Nuke said, abandoning his position 4 prime queue real estate and sliding his way through the forest of towering patrons towards the pale Shek woman.
Hey, you're albino,
was his charming opening line.
And you're a flatskin, fug off,
she replied. That's what I'm talking about, Nuke cheered, sitting down next to her.
You're not fugging off. Are you slow in the head, flatskin?
I'm rich, if that's what you mean.
Yep, that's what I meant. Rich enough for charity, is it?
Well, yeah, I'm basically collecting weird Sheks, and I've already got one albino. How much do you cost then?
Collection, right. You should know, I'm only a kid, fugface.
You don't talk like one, or look like one. Wait a minute, am I being bamboozled here?
Nope, just richness again,
the Shek said. You might think that there really was a live bamboozling occurring, but despite being taller than Nuke and infinitely more cynical, she had scarcely cleared double digits in age. Look, my friend is really sad about the fact he's, a freak like you. So I wanted to pay you some money to go tell him he's a fuckface and shit, and get him realizing you can still be a regular old barfly scumbag and enjoy life, even if you're also the laughingstock of the town.
I don't need this shit flat-skin worm. I'm an engineer, not a doctor.
Ah, yeah. My, friend who is a girl does stuff like that.
You do not have any friends, flat-skin.
I bet you 2 stacks I can talk to a girl right now.
Give me the money now, and if you win, I'll give it back. How about that?
That seems convenient. Unless, wait.
Don't try to work it out, moron. Come, let me laugh at your dull loneliness before someone takes my spot.
Nuke directed the Shek out into the street, where Izumi was muttering something to Gustafsson. I knew I had associated well. So be it, fleshy one. Your secrets amuse me highly. Oh, a Shek child, he said. Izumi turned around and looked down to see the stocky legs of this so-called child.
Greetings, flat-skin girl. I am Elena,
she said from a good 2 or 3 heads above Izumi.
I am told you are friends with that human in the doorway.
Nuke waved from outside the bar.
What did he do? Did he steal something? I'm sorry. Here, how much do we owe you?
2 stacks.
Rick, do you have your bucket?
Yes, I have my bucket,
Rick said, emerging from behind Gary. Elena gasped.
That's an amazing skeleton,
she said, immediately laying her big hands on his shoulders.
Damn, I still got it. Can you fuck off a moment, missy?
But these parts are so rare. Where were you manufactured? And the red faceplate?
It's a real expensive story. Izumi, is this one of your bookworms?
Sorry, no, I think Nuke did something, Izumi said.
So you really do know that awful man?
Elena asked.
Yeah, we're like friends.
Oh, let me tell you what they are,
Rick started, but Elena broke out in a booming laugh.
So he wasn't lying, the little rascal. But he said he knew another pale skin.
That's Izayah, he's outside. Guess you both have the same condition.
I dunno. He said you're into engineering, is that true?
Yeah, it's my job.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Finally someone who agrees.
I do it too. You with the tech hunters?
Of course.
No way. You must be famous.
Well, I am a published author in my field, but who isn't these days?
Big sister, you gotta hook me up.
Big? I don't know about that.
Look, I'll talk to your pale-skinned friend, whatever you need. Let's do something,
Elena said, waving Nuke over with a smile. Nuke sent her out to Izayah's hiding place among the cliffs.
Well, she's tall,
Izumi said. Welcome to the Shek Kingdom, Stumpy. She's gonna knock some sense into Izayah about this whole skin color thing, Nuke said. Izayah was knocked head over heels, alright.
You're albino!
He shouted as Elena approached his hiding spot, Choco barking all the while.
Is that a customary greeting or something? You're albino too, though. Never seen another one.
Nor I. Incredible!
Your friend in there says you need to stop worrying about it and just go in. And yeah, he's right. I never let it hold me back.
Oh, I wouldn't say it holds me back. Merely prompts me to go in a different direction.
And what direction is that?
Adventure! Why don't we go for a stroll and I'll regale you with a tale? Ah, it's okay, Choco, calm down, she's a friend.
That evening, Nuke exited Squin with some good news. Izayah, we sold it all! Shek really do go gorilla shit for this stuff, we're gonna be fucking rich! Oh, you're still here. Elena gave a respectful bow.
I didn't know, Prince Tashino. I'm sorry I was rude.
Izayah, you've tamed her. But we're off, so best let her back into the wild, you know?
Nonsense! She wants to come on an adventure!
Yes, if that's okay with you, Prince,
Elena said. I guess. Might not be an adventure, but I wanted you to take us over to Admag. We're gonna work out what it will take to clean these towns out, then we'll be set for life. Ah, there was a time when Nuke would have been talking about stealing everything. Creating and exploiting drug addiction? Now that's the more virtuous path. There are many kinds of hero.
Oh, that's right. I can probably get your machines working better on your farm,
Elena said.
No offense to little sister, but I can probably make this chocolate stuff in my sleep.
Yeah, Charlie here thought he could do that too, but it turns out it was something else. So why don't you two pale scales lead the way?
Of course!
Izayah cheered.
To Admag, then. What a time. It feels good to finally have a Shek my own age about, I must say.
You're the same age? Izumi asked. Prince Gustavsson said she was a child for some reason.
Ha! Well, she's still older than me.
Wait, how old are you?
11 3/4.
What the fuck?
Izumi exclaimed. I think some of the others did so as well. Yes, Sheks, while technically human deep down inside, had all kinds of rough spots, genetically and dermatologically. As such, they rapidly grew into their adult forms, then actually got smaller in the so-called turbulent 20s of adolescence, before encrusting for a good 200 years of adulthood, after which they either got really big or really small for the last stretch, like the stars themselves.
So Chompin' Charlie there's an old man, and the power tower here's a damned trumped-up lava? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Biological's got it bad.
Rick commented. He was probably right. Aside from the chronological confusion, the night march to Admag went peacefully. The kingdom's borders were well guarded, not a bandit in sight. However, some of the kingdom's own citizens proved just as troublesome. In the morning, with the mountaintop city of Admag now in sight, the crew passed a patrolling group of soldiers on the main road.
Pale skins and flat skins. What a pitiful sight,
the leader called out. Seeing Izayah keeping his eyes to the ground, Elena spoke up.
Oh, fug off. Never seen a human before. Get over yourselves. And if you can't take pale fucking skin, you're gonna get real scared when it's your time to face the skin spiders, fugger.
Flat skins don't belong here. Neither do bugmen, old ones, or fucking collaborators.
Gentlemen, please, perhaps I could interest you in a trip to Browntown, Nuke offered. They didn't want to go, which was a shame because they would have really liked it. Instead, the patrol members went into a mad rage and attacked the horrible humans. But alas, they were outnumbered, and indeed, these humans weren't the puny dregs of imagination.
Kral's chosen,
Elena commented once the attackers were slain.
Trouble for everyone who isn't them.
So we need to get Kral to choose us too? Nuke asked.
Not going to happen, Prince,
Izayah said.
Long since dead, and famously so. You'll get an earful about it in the city, I expect.
The city was a short walk away. However, once again Izayah jammed his sword in the ground outside and made himself comfortable.
Come on, man, I thought... Big kid, say something to him,
Nuke pleaded.
Stick with me. We won't let anyone give us any shit. It'll be fine,
Elena said. But Izayah shook his head.
I assure you, friends, that this is nothing to do with it. It's a personal matter, one that is now very close by.
A bounty? What are you talking about? Nuke asked. Everyone else was looking around awkwardly.
We agreed to let him have his own business, didn't we, my prince?
Watchton said. Yeah, but he's making it my business. I need my man and mascot up front to probe out the chocoholic potential accurately. That's just science, man. So what's the problem here?
I'll say this,
Izayah conceded.
Up there is the residence of the stone golem, queen of all Shek. She and I have a sour history, so I cannot return. So, I will stay here until you have learned what you need to. No harm done, is there?
We're gonna find out, Nuke said, setting off up the steep hill to the city gate. Elena stayed with Izayah for another chat, while everyone else took in the sights of Admag. There wasn't that much to see. While it was the capital of the Shek kingdom, it was more of a castle than a city, dotted with high towers, surrounded by cliffs and thick walls, and filled with glaring soldiers. Nuke sent the crew off to the few shops to get the lay of the land, while he marched right up to the large barrack building covered in Shek kingdom banners. "I'm here to meet the queen," he declared at the doors. The guard smiled and let him through.
"Bagsy's on his sword, all right,"
he muttered to his comrade. Similar things were whispered as Nuke strode past the elite of the Shek military, who were happy to direct him up to the roof where the stone golem awaited. Up there, standing in the baking sun like a statue, was a huge grey Shek in full chainmail, wielding a poleaxe the size of poor Nuke, onto whom her steely glare swung.
Are you, Queen? That's like Empress, I presume. I'm here about,
Nuke petered out as the Queen's mouth began to grimace, revealing sharp filed teeth and a low growl.
Damn, this ain't the bogs, wrong way, sorry madam,
he said, scurrying back downstairs. At the bottom he ran right into another Shek, standing with hands on hips.
Flatskin, you will explain yourself to me now,
the Shek said. This was Bayan, mouth of the Queen, and a much more pleasant mouth, fortunately. He took Nuke aside from the snickering soldiers and informed him how the Queen spoke only to so-called allies of the Shek. It's a real easy favour, I just need her to clear something up with a friend. I don't know the details, but it's going to be great for business. You heard of brown bread?
That is your doing, is it?
Yeah, gonna stick it to the big boys back in the Empire by getting rich and spreading the love, you know?
Good, good. I knew there were people in the Empire who weren't as disgusting as their nobility.
Yeah, I hate those guys.
But the rule stands. Whatever business your guild has with the Queen, it is not her concern, nor mine, and I am quite busy, so if you don't mind...
Wait, there's gotta be something you want. Free chocolate? Oh, the filth. You'll like this. I've got these fan-translated books with some serious pictures, you know?
For a freak like you, the Queen would accept nothing less than the death of the Bug Master.
Fine, I'll kill him, Nuke said. But at this, the whole barracks broke out in a deafening laughter that shook dust from the walls and even spilled a few drinks.
Good luck, Flatskin,
Bayan said, departing from his seat while still contorting all over the place in amusement. Nuke was not one to take this humiliation sitting down. He stood, but alas the humiliation continued, and so he ran from the building, swearing a vow to kill whatever this Bugmaster was. Well, we all make mistakes, don't we? Alright, who wants to come with me and kill the Bug Muncher? Nuke called out to the bar. A chorus of grimaces and growls filled the air. Come on guys, all the brown you can down, Nuke added, but he'd lost the crowd. He was about to leave when a frail-looking Shek at the back of the room stood.
I suppose it's my time. Been waiting too long. I'll die with you, Flatskin,
he said. He began walking towards Nuke, and right away the whole bar went silent, stood, turned to face the speaker, and bowed their heads.
In the image of Kral he walks. With the honor of Kral, he shall die,
the barman recited loudly. The customers all echoed his words. You really don't cheer your own folk on very well, Nuke noted. Outside, the old Shek, calling himself Wyatt, leant on his battered katana in the street.
We leave at once, I presume?
He asked. Yep, at once. Remind me where we're going again?
To where Kral stood at his glorious end, to the twisted land of death.
Oh, of course, I was just thinking I'd like to visit there. Great vistas. Come on, let's go meet the lovely folk you'll be dying with. Nuke rounded up the group and marched down the hill to look for Izayah. The echoing barks of Choco made it easy. When they reunited, Wyatt seemed taken aback.
Two paleskins. What manner of company is twice cursed by narcos so?
He said. Guys, this happy chappy is, or was it Sag Scales or whatever, he's going to help us kill the Bugmeister. You see, I spoke to the Queen of Rocks or whatever.
Did you say kill the Bugmaster?
Elena interjected.
Did you say you spoke to the Queen?
Izayah added. Sort of, and sort of. Queen Cranky won't listen to anything we have to say without a favour. This big insect is a problem or something, so we take him out, and then we can get Izayah's unspeakable crimes against the sanctity of corpses pardoned, and make a cross-continental chalk deal to get unlimited money. Any questions?
The Bugmaster has killed thousands already,
and it is a Greenlander, not an insect," Elena explained. "It is a great honor to be slain at his gates, but it's not my time."
If you will not face death with courage, then stay, wither and die, soil your legacy with your final selfish breath, and know that your life was wasted until the bitter, lonely end," Wyatt said.
"You see, this is why I don't associate with normal Shek," Nuke said. "Look, Sad Scales, we're gonna go there right now and sort this out, okay? We've killed like a bajillion people and walked here from the other side of the damn world. We're gonna scope this bug mister, eat a loaf of bread with 200 grams of sugar per square inch, and go beast mode on that loser. I'll be the beast master." Fuck, that's some cool shit. Elena directed the group south towards the so-called Twisted Land of Death, where their quarry awaited. They wandered through large, urchin-infested canyons and up and down the large fortified mesas separating the provinces of the Shek kingdom. As they walked into the night, Izayah took Nuke aside.
"Prince Tashino, please tell me, what did the stone golem say to you? Actually, more importantly, what did you say to her?"
"Well, I mean, it was a pretty cool convo," Nuke said. "We laughed, talked about Yesuke and Rock-chan, just chilled. But I mentioned I wanted a favor, and she went like stone cold. Guess that happens a lot."
"Indeed. You didn't mention me, did you?"
"No, of course not. So whose corpse was it then?"
"I beg your pardon?"
What did you do to get exiled or whatever? I was a spliff dealer. You were a stiff feeler, right?"
"I'm not sure you understand. The thing is, I can't tell you,"
Izayah said, glancing over at the others walking nearby.
"Although, between you and me, I think it's nonsense keeping this a secret, especially from you," he went on, his voice lowered.
"So you're saying you think I'm like you?"
"I'm saying I know you're like me."
"Based on what? I haven't so much as flirted with a corpse."
"No, I mean that we both have very special parents."
"We're brothers? But the scales?"
"This is far more difficult than I ever imagined."
"Our mother must have said the same."
"Look, you know how you are Prince Tashino?"
"That's a pretty philosophical question that I don't feel comfortable answering."
"Wonderful. Well, in the same way that you might be Prince Tashino, investigation of the old I think therefore I am pending, I might just happen to be Prince Izayah, not of the Empire, of the Shek Kingdom. So that means Queen Estata, the stone golem that is my mother. But it's a secret."
"Okran's dipstick, that's a secret alright. You're a fucking prince. Why didn't you say?"
I thought you'd get mad if there were too many princes around. Silly, isn't it?"
"Fuck no. Prince pride, bro. That's like insane. So you got exiled?"
"I was always exiled, for I was always a pale skin. Mother's orders, that's simply how it is."
Man, we're gonna sort that shit out. You walk into town with the bug mulcher's mandibles under your arm, and that'll be pure chocolate justice, my man."
"While I have no idea what that means, I thank you for your support. However, I have no wish to be part of that family anymore. But I would like to see them, and to live among the Shek as Elena does. How I am to be pardoned for being born like this into a family like that, I do not know."
"Told you, I'm gonna sort it out. We're gonna save your kingdom from nutrient deficiency, end fucking racism, then end fucking slavery. Man, and I only left the house to get some fucking green. Got the other kind of crazy trip."
"Your support is like nothing else I have ever enjoyed, Prince Tashino."
"So this means you really didn't get busted for corpse canoodling?"
"Oh, my prince, of course not,"
Izayah said, putting an arm around Nuke and pulling him closer.
"That's not even illegal here."
About 40% reassured, Nuke marched on with the group. Around 1 in the morning, they were looking for a place to rest and saw lights and a wall up ahead.
Thinking it another of the many Shek military outposts, they went to check the breakfast menu and such. However, the guards at the gate were wearing the brown uniforms of those who had accosted Nuke on the road to Admag.
This must be New Kralia, the rebel base, Elena said. The stone golem outlawed their little sect, and so they went off to live in the mountains. We're probably the only ones stupid enough to get lost up here.
Or lucky enough, Nuke said. Because if we bring these guys down, Stone Zone back there will owe us one. We'll tell everyone that outlaw Izayah has saved the kingdom from these renegades. Sort of thing a worthy leader would do, right?
Then you should be first, my prince,
Izayah said with a flourished bow. After all were done winking at each other and stewing in the smugness of knowing a secret, as in the only secret was the matter of the secrecy. Oh, don't worry about it too much, okay? Basically, Nuke decided to try his luck with the gate guards. Friends, is this Kralia? Nuke opened.
Flatskin scum, you have 5 seconds to leave before we begin our hunt,
was the reply, accompanied by the drawing of long greatswords. Fantastic. However, friends, you should know that I am also Kral's chosen.
Impossible.
Really, he chose me too.
He fell in battle against 100 foes. You should never dream of walking even in his footprints.
But he left behind this letter. Says the Prince of the Empire is welcome to use his bed and breakfast with all he can eat of either bread or salad at the host's discretion, and also like 20 of his guests. So yeah, let us in. Oh, and it says we can keep all our weapons and stuff.
Give me that,
a guard said, grabbing at the scrap of paper Nuke was holding out. They didn't pick up that it only had a few words on it, reading roughly, "Please do what cool human wants, bed, food, drugs." But something else gave the game away.
This isn't Kral's handwriting.
Yeah, he was really drunk when he wrote that, sorry.
Drunk on what?
Cactus rum.
Fool, Kral only ever drunk urchin rum.
The bottles got switched.
Kral only ever drunk from flasks.
The flask was leaking.
Kral always had a second flask outside the first flask to prepare for just such incidents.
Fug, he thought of everything. Alright, then just read the back of that sheet instead. The guard flipped the paper.
Psych! We're here to kill you. I doubt Kral would write that if you were really his friend.
A crossbow bolt ended the poor guard's confusion, and the others didn't last long against the rush of guild warriors emerging from the surrounding night. However, all that did was get them in through the gate. Inside there was a campfire and a couple of sandstone buildings with lights flickering in the windows. Before they could investigate, a Shrek strode out of the closer one.
Oh, I could kill a flatskin in the afternoon. I could kill a flatskin in the eve. I could kill a flatskin at the break of dawn, and there ain't a single one I would leave, he sang.
How's 3 a.m. for you? Nuke called as his sword flashed in the firelight. In a second, the Shek was on the ground.
You know,
Rick said,
we'd be in trouble if these places were full of like a legion of these guys. I mean, I don't really care about getting a bed to sleep on, so let's just quit while we're ahead.
It was wise counsel. However, then Els started singing.
I could kill a flatskin with a rusty spoon. I could kill a flatskin with a plate. I could kill a flatskin with a dried up shid. And there ain't a single moment to wait.
Then a face appeared in one of the windows.
Finally he came up with a second verse. Hang on. What the fug? Interlopers!
The voice boomed. Oh dear. More of Kral's chosen swarmed from the buildings, wielding huge blades and clad in iron armor. Charge! Kill them! In the name of the true prince! Nuke called, leading his entourage into the fray.
Oh, he's probably talking about himself, don't worry,
Izayah assured the others as battle commenced.
Guess I'll just chill here,
Elena said, stepping aside with Gary and watching the shadowy brawl. With the inclusion of Nuke's hired goons, the guild seemed to have the upper hand, But then there was a thudding, clacking stomp as a huge Shek jumped down from the roof of one of the buildings. The shorter one, mind you, and he was a trained professional, so don't try that at home. He arose, his horns protruding like antlers, his blade speckled with sharp, bony teeth, his eyes drawing up onto Elena.
Ah, the Queen birthed another monstrosity, did she? So it wasn't me that caused it then, he growled.
Not really. Nice place you have here. You know, we just wanted somewhere to sleep, as long as there's free breakfast, unlimited bread, or unlimited salad, at the host's discretion.
Elena fizzled out as the Shek loomed above her. And remember, Elena was already neck-strainingly tall for the average human.
The Queen's insects shall be crushed, their juices consumed, and then I, Flying Bull, shall be king.
That explains the entrance,
Elena said, jumping forwards with the short sword she had clutched in both hands. Flying Bull gracefully danced backwards, and in the same motion swung his gargantuan blade upwards. With a puny clink, the sword was sent spiraling into the starry sky. With a shriek, Elena turned to flee, but the next swoosh of the spinning blade caught her leg and flipped her to the ground in indescribable pain.
"Fuck, man! Big kid's eating shit!"
Nuke said to Izayah.
Elena! Leave her alone! It's me you want!
Izayah called, rushing over. Nuke joined him in facing down the Goliath.
Ah, you're right. You are the rodent prince, aren't you?
Flying Bull said, pointing his blade at Izayah.
"He's the best prince in the world, whale scales,"
Nuke retorted.
What a fall from grace to have a flatskin praise your name. You should have seen the look of disgust on your mother's face on the day of your birth, rodent. After she refused my offer to kill you there and then, I thought I'd never see your puny, pale stalk again. Perhaps she only exiled me in the hopes I would find you and finish the job. Yes, if she is as wise as the coward's whine, then that must be it. Come then, I will destroy... Ah!
Flying Bull was cut off, in a rather literal sense. A short sword had fallen from the sky and pierced his arm. The blade dropped from his hand.
Now!
Izayah shouted. He and Nuke sliced into one leg each, and Flying Bull fell to his knees with another roar. He lashed out with his fists and batted Nuke aside, but Izayah stepped around the flailing trunks and pushed his blade against Bull's neck. With a two-handed swipe, the deed was done. Even before Flying Bull's corpse crashed into the dirt, Izayah was beside Elena, unlike her right leg.
Narco's darkness, hold on, Elena,
he said, dragging the bandages from his bag.
I knew there was a secret to all this,
Elena muttered with a smile.
You heard? Old politics, no matter to us. I am Izayah, and that's all. Now hold still.
Luckily, after the sun rose and the fighting was over, no one got any injuries worse than Elena. Still, it was enough of a beating to immobilize the guild, not to mention the exhaustion of the all-nighter. Handy then that the spoils of victory included the Kral's chosen hideout all to themselves. Beds, food and treasures were free for the taking, and freely they were took. However, the coins and trinkets weren't the real treasure. The members of Kral's Chosen were lined up, and where they were still alive, they were bound in the manner Kral would have chosen, a set of binds, then another set around the binds, just in case.
"Are you sure you're alright?"
Izumi asked Izayah. Izayah pulled a face-obscuring battle helmet over his head.
I'll be fine. If anyone delivers this scoundrel to justice, it should be me.
He knelt down and somehow hoisted the huge frame of Flying Bull over his shoulders. So for now, just make them think that a mysterious, masked Shek defeated the rebels. No names. We'll swoop in and do a big reveal later, yeah? Nuke said.
As you wish, Prince Tashino.
"Reveal of what exactly?"
Izumi asked.
My true identity.
Ah, well, we don't even know what that is, she said with another wink.
You mean that he is the lost prince? Elena said, hobbling over with a longsword for a crutch. Whoops. I guess while she knew the secret, she didn't know the secret of the secret.
What? He's not. Why would you say that?
Izumi bluffed. Future girl, I know. I always knew. Nuke also bluffed.
Oh, so you're not mad?
Mad he's not getting what he deserves. Prince bros, that's us, sticking together. Except right now, because he's going to AdMag, and I'm going to bed.
Wait, I'm going with him,
Elena said.
Hoping to make it a quick one and pop right back,
Izayah explained, but Elena was hobbling at him anyway.
Carry me. I'm not going to be separated from you,
she insisted. Handy that Izayah was wearing armor over his face, or that decreasingly pale skin would have betrayed his embarrassment. Pale bros? We're all such bros, Nuke said, waving L's over. Charlie, you're demoted to corpse carrier. Take whale scales from pale scales and do what he says, alright? The second guy, not the first guy. Whatever.
Is Izayah my boss now if we're saying he's the prince?
We're both your boss. In fact, to make it easy for you, Charlie, everyone's your boss, alright?
Even me?
Oh, except you. Okran's swaying fringe. Just get going, will you? We've got beds to descale. Therefore, the masked Shek mysteriously delivered the body of the outlaw Flying Bull to an AdMag police station, winning himself a huge cash bounty and an audience with the Queen, but he quickly retreated, reciting,
I did this only for the good of the Shek kingdom. Now, for the same reason, I must say goodbye. One day, you will understand.
These carefully chosen words, when relayed to Queen Stone Golem, caused her to fly into an over-the-top rage and then lock the doors of her royal barrack and refuse to see anyone. After all, none could see the mighty Queen of the Shek shed a tear. After returning to New Kralia, Izayah's payload received some good news. Among the misc found in the rebels' possession was a skeleton leg. Thanks to advances in user-friendly technology back in the First Empire, this leg could replace and even surpass Elena's old one with a click, a snap, and a hum.
Feels weird,
she reported. Gustafsson fiddled with some tiny bolts on the side. This model is exemplary. It is a fine replacement. Is there another? Wadston shook his head from over by the spare parts bin. Regretful. I will smell his disappointment. I will search further. So then, with a new leg sorted out, the Battle of New Kralia had been a complete victory for the guild. And now all of AdMag was speaking of the mysterious masked hero who had rid the kingdom of the pretender Flying Bull. Many folk went to New Kralia to try and find out more, but it would take them a day to arrive, and by then the place was deserted. The rested guild had moved out towards the distant black mountain that loomed in the south, the doomed crater of Arak, domain of the dark lord of spiders, the Bug Master. Thousands might have died hunting the murderous arachnid overlord, but they probably didn't have that cocky-chocky. Nuke had nothing to worry about at all, right? The Shek kingdom was mostly confined to the Badlands between the Great Vein River to the north and the lush mountainside plains to the south. Some said it was just Shek bravado, only weak humans or mindless hivers lived where plants grew. But those who say that have at least never been to those lush plains, known rather accurately as the Spider Plains. Is that a skimmer? Nuke puzzled when he first saw one.
More like a skinner,
Elena said.
Skin spiders, this is their territory, and the Bug Master you are looking for is their king.
If you'd seen a skimmer, you wouldn't be so worried. Way worse than those ugly fugs. Come on. The guild approached a group of these pink, fleshy skin spiders.
Since Izumi was ranting about it as they walked, I should tell you that, yes, they only had 4 legs and 2 weird hoof arms hanging from their underbelly. So, like everything that was called a spider, it was certainly not a spider. These beasts had avoided classification so far, since upon closer inspection the leg count wasn't really what caught your attention. They had disfigured faces protruding from their shoulders like huge boils, faces that roughly resembled hivers. The guild killed a few of them quickly, their blades cutting through the soft tissue of these creatures with ease. That gave them all the time they needed to poke at the abominations. You would imagine Els would be first in there, but actually he was the only one keeping his distance. Gustafsson, it looks like you, Nuke noted, boinging one of the head boils around with a stick. Gustafsson was unimpressed. Its associations have been erased. It cannot go back. Pay them no heed. Whatever that meant, it was time to leave the piles of flesh to simmer in the midday sun and continue on to the foot of the looming dark mountain to the southwest. There, at the end of civilization, were the twin fortresses of Last Stand.
Didn't think I'd see this place in a long, long time, Elena said.
Ha! And there were some who wanted to send me here as an offering to the Bug Master. Seems they got their way in the end,
Izayah said. The crew wandered inside one of the forts, but they were even less welcoming than your average Shek outpost. Most of the buildings were featureless sandstone barracks filled with beds and little else. After some searching, they got themselves into a self-styled bar, but inside it was just a bunch of elderly Shek sitting silently around tables, staring into the distance or at their own reflections in the blades of their tall swords.
Come on guys, this isn't a funeral,
Nuke remarked under his breath, but at once a frail-looking Shek was in his face.
Speak when spoken to, Flatskin. I don't know why you are here, but if I have to endure another day of life just to teach you a lesson, then I will, he said.
Calm down, Crinkles. I just mean this place could use a little brown. I'm gonna kill the Bug Master, you know. The Shek headbutted Nuke without hesitation. The apparent frailty of the man didn't stop Nuke clearing a whole table before hitting the ground. In a flash, Sandor was in the air also, his blade coming down on the Shek in both hands, but with a single motion, the Shek cleared Sandor away with a wide sweep of his greatsword.
Stop!
Izayah called, jumping into the brewing brawl.
This is a misunderstanding. Please, friend, excuse my flat-skin comrades. Important tourists, you see, but not at all unskilled. To speak of killing the Bug Master is no empty bluff. Half empty at most. Half full? No, definitely half empty.
This intervention somehow de-escalated things, and Nuke returned to the conversation, albeit slumped on Wadston's back.
So, sounds like this is a big deal or something, he said.
Indeed. The group sat for hours listening to many of the Shek in the bar explain the deal in laborious detail, so allow me to summarize just what was going on in this dour corner of the world. Remember that Kral guy? Well, he was the one who made the eponymous Last Stand on that mountainside, long before the time of the Bug Master. Entrapped by a band of rebels, warrior Kral had battled 100 of them at once. He had no thought of fleeing, and with skills and strength in equal measure, he sent bodies rolling down the hill, one by one. Then, on the verge of total victory, he had been stabbed in the back and slain. His legend had evolved over the generations, and now the gathering the guild witnessed at Last Stand really was a funeral of sorts. When a Shek neared the end of their life, it was customary to come here to Arak Mountain and die as Kral had died, fighting a battle that always outlived its participants. In the current era, the Bug Master was the opponent. Luckily for the Shek tradition, the Bug Master never lost, and so for decades now Shek had gone out into the great razor of Arak, never to return.
Wait a minute, Nuke said after hearing all of this. It sounds to me like this buggery man is doing you lot a favour. Kill him and your last stands will be literally just standing there and seeing how long you last. Why did Stone Zone want me to come spoil the fun?
A new game she plays. She sends bounty hunters after the Bug Master all the time, a Shek replied.
She does not understand honor. Now listen here, you, Izayah said. Queen Astarte fought in battles that Kral could only dream of. Watch your mouth. Why, she is cursed. She had a pale-skinned kid like you, Junior. She should be out here with us. Couple of pale-skins like you wouldn't understand. Surprised those warriors there hang around with you. Hang on.
The barfly was looking at Els, Bobby and Claw, who were sitting at the next table over. Els had a bucket over his head, and so far this had seemed completely unremarkable. However, now it was wrenched off by a gathering group of patrons.
Look at this old chubber, one said. He's far past his due. Do you not know courage, whelk?
I don't like skin spiders,
Els yelped, running outside.
Ah, I think our smelly friend might have found himself here before,
Izayah noted. Ah, so guess it's stuff like that which turns the Rock Mother off the place, Nuke said. Works for me too. This is shit. I mean, everyone's coming out here, sitting around being miserable thugs, then going out to die fighting some hyped up piece of shit and playing to fucking lose. What's the point? Kral wasn't trying to lose, was he? Why can't we just win? Die how you want, when you want. My boy Charlie wants more bucket time, so give him more bucket time. And those who want to fight the Bugmaster, why don't we just work something out and actually win? This speech got the old Shek at Nuke's table rather angry. They stormed away, but others came closer. Indeed, there were a few Sheks, mostly at the younger end of the old spectrum, who were interested in Nuke's dream of victory. Problem was, he needed a way to actually do it. He needed a secret weapon that the countless thousands who had tried before him didn't have. Operation Brown Pound, Nuke announced. Izumi cringed so hard you could actually hear it. All you new guys stick with sad scales here. You're going to be working with this guy, the mysterious masked Shek, Whitehorn Izayah. He is the leader of the official TCM Plus Bugbuster non-doomed elite chocolate combat shock troops. What's chocolate, I smell you thinking? Chocolate, friends, is the doomsday weapon that will destroy doomsday itself. Once you eat it, you'll know what I mean. So, with the promise that what he had just said would somehow make sense in the future, Nuke plotted a course back to Admag. When he left though, he told Sandor to take a pleasant hike in the Mountain of Death and find out what all the fuss was about. Was this all much ado about nothing? Or was there nothing much all could ado about this? Nuke asked the question in an even more confusing way, I assure you, but Sandor understood and hiked up the mountainside as night fell. Used to finding his way in the dark, Sandor was quickly halfway up. There he encountered a sheltered gully lit by fires. Inside were a dozen heavily armed figures, some pacing about, others sitting quietly on their own. Before they knew it, Sandor was sitting beside one of their campfires.
What? Who are you?
A man asked.
One of you,
Sandor replied.
A bounty hunter, huh? Well, you fell for it too then, didn't you?
explain.
You haven't got it yet? That bounty on the Bugmaster, it's impossible! Shek go up there to the crater every day. Don't do nothing. Spiders come round here every few hours, and it don't matter how many you kill.
Then go back.
Go back? You think there's anyone here who can go back? Debts is the thing. Kinda debts where you need a big score, or it's the chop. So here we're stuck. Death up there, death down there. If you've come up here by choice, you've got eyes bigger than your belly. Skinnies don't have that problem. But yeah, we'll burn out our wood and see what happens, won't we? Well, oi, where'd he go?
Sandor was beyond the light the fire could offer, hauling himself further up the mountain. He soon saw the crater the bounty hunter had mentioned, and by saw, I mean he felt the moist wind coming up from it. It carried disturbances, the sounds of dozens of soft feet padding around the narrow cliffs leading downwards. Sandor descended towards them, but they faded away faster than he could advance. Instead, he heard the sloshing of water. In the crater's middle there was a huge lake, the water stained red by the exposed minerals in the scorched rocks. In aeons past, the place had been awash with magma and fire, and that legacy remained in the comfortable temperature of the maroon lake. This worked to Sandor's benefit, as something was glinting out on the water. It was time for a swim. He quietly approached a tall shadow, unable to recognize it until it was right up close. It was one of the mushroom-shaped depots characteristic of the Second Empire, only it was collapsed on its side and partially submerged. Climbing inside and finding nothing, Sandor put an ear to the wall and closed his eyes to wait for morning. Back over in Admag, the rest of the guild had arrived safe and sound and were also enjoying the comforts of an old ruin. Only thing was, this ruin had cost Nuke most of his brown profits. He had bought up an old tower on the edge of the city for use as a depot in his operations, which were, to clarify here, selling brown to local drug addicts and gathering an army to conquer Mount Doom. Despite the cost, the place was partially collapsed under its own weight, filled with rubble, and stank of a stink-unstunk. "It's all yours, my man," Nuke said, clapping Wadston on the back. "Sort it all out, and I'll rustle up the stocks and jocks for our mission."
Will you not be leaving Miss Azumi to oversee things?
"What? No, she's like my friendly girl or something."
Damn, he really ain't never gonna say it, huh?
Rick remarked. "Yeah, coin slot, you gotta stay too. You really don't help, you know," Nuke said.
I know. Hot damn metal man setting the bar too high. Well, at least this tower's a real doer-upper, you know?
Preferring not to know, the crew got to business. Wadston, Rick and Els were left in Admag to play house, while the rest began the very long walk all the way back to Manksand Canyon. While that quest for a chocolate legion trundles along, let's check back in with Sandor. In the light of day, he could see the full extent of the crater he was in. Spider trails ran along the edge and up and down the slopes, but it was quiet for now. It was raining heavily, and a low fog sat up at the crater rim. In the grey, Sandor could make out the faintest shadow of a building high up to the south. He leapt from his perch, slipped quietly into the water, and made for the southern shore. From there it was a steep climb over smooth, slippery rocks, weathered down by years of water flowing into the crater. At the top there was a ridge covered in bouncy red-brown dirt. It ran a short distance west along the crater rim, then turned north into a promontory, the site of the Bug Master's secret castle. It was a huge Second Empire palace, admittedly in terrible condition. Its grounds were patrolled by hordes of skin spiders, as was the ridge that approached it. That was the only way up, so Sandor couldn't get a closer look. But he'd seen enough to know that the ado was about something indeed, and that something had to be done about it. In Admag, work on the new guild shopfront/military base remained mostly undone. To tackle this, Rick went to the bar to recruit some help.
Listen up, you scaly sons of narco,
He called out.
It's me, your boy, Captain Redlin Ricard of the International Chocolate Legion or some shit, and I've got some day laboring work going. Who wants to make a quick cat doing my doer-upper up? Yeah, it's real easy work, and the pay's great, I'm telling you. I've been alive, 6,000 years at least, and I ain't never done anything so satisfying as working with me as the boss. Yeah, gather round, I got time. Let's get you all signed up, huh? Oh, by the way, by agreeing to this, you're also agreeing to join a private army, but don't you worry about that. Simple day laboring's all it is, except the part where your life is forfeit. But hey, the contract's just a fucking sandwich, so why sweat the details? You'll be back by Kenshi Kralia Eve, and that's a red Rick guarantee. A disclaimer, this is not a guarantee.
Yep, that worked out pretty well. Nuke had made it back to Squin and was doing the same, but he was pretty much straightforward about it and just paid a load of wannabe soldiers to sign up, or sandwich up as it were. "And on top of the cash, we pay you in food too," he boasted. "Well, it's not really food, it's something you can put in your mouth, and I'll show you what it is once we get back to my place." With this surely irresistible promise, he managed to wrangle up a veritable squadron of Shek. They embarked with him on the long, uneventful trip back to HQ. Then, Nuke had a promise to keep. He gathered his new recruits and addressed them from atop a big crate. "You've all heard of it. You all want it. Brown Town. The bread that they did get. The legacy of the Brown Emperor. Yes, it goes by many names, but there's only one place in the world you can get it. From my warm, loving hands. With this, he kicked the crate below him, and the side fell open to reveal a huge stock of brown bread, the product of Jazz and Company's hard work while Nuke's crew had been away. The Shek, who had been forcefully recommended to not eat anything for a day before, lunged forwards at the bread rolling out towards them. Shek are hungry folk even at the best of times, and as a feeding frenzy developed, Nuke put his hands on his hips and laughed in a very sane-sounding fashion. Yes, consume it, my friends, consume the fuel of the revolution. You are not just soldiers, you are the elite warriors of Whitehorn Izayah, bringer of the age of peace, doom of doom, bug master. You will be undefeatable. You would eat skin spiders for breakfast, but you can't, cause you always fill up on this sweet dessert at every meal. Yes, that is what they shall call the ultimate soldiers, you, my deserters. None of the Shek heard any of this, all lost in a euphoric brown bread trance, but Wadston politely clapped from some distance away. Azumi cleansed herself with a long blink, then hauled her gear over to her office. Someone was waiting for her behind the door.
So, how'd it go?
Jazz said, quickly closing said door. Izumi slumped into a chair.
Well, we're gonna fight some kind of Spider-Man to help Izayah, Prince Izayah, as it turns out. Another one? Yeah, pretty good association, huh? What's that mean? Doesn't matter. Anyway, we're back here because we need to get some more BB so Nuke can turbocharge his new toys and get some cash over in the kingdom. So much work. Right, but you know all that isn't really what I meant. I meant how did it go? Go fuck yourself? Stop swearing, you little... How did it go with Nuke? Nuke? It went there and back again. What? All the way there? And all the way back again? What's that even mean? Nothing. It means nothing. Ocaran's paddle. He's just my friend who is a boy, alright? Damn, you really ain't never gonna say it, are you?
Jazz grinned. Izumi kicked her out and took a long-deserved nap. The poor Shek didn't have that privilege. They were driven onto the roof of the barracks for an immediate drill instruction. So then, chocolate might not have taken the entire world by storm, but it certainly tickled the fancy of the Shek, and they could in turn tickle the rest of the world on Nuke's behalf. As for what I mean when I say tickle there, you'll find out soon enough.